Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler, here with Johnny. Johnny, what's going on?
Oh, Tyler, just being super cool dad. That's all I'm doing right now. Just,
okay. Wow, this is a real interesting way to start. What specifically cool dad things are you doing? When I think of a cool dad, I think of someone hanging out in the hot tub at the family barbecue with their own six-pack, talking to no one, with sunglasses, just living his best life for one goddamn day. Johnny,
I don't know what this intro is. I don't know what we're doing.
You know what? I was just talking with my mom, and she listened to a couple episodes, probably one episode. She told me a couple, but she's lying. With one of her newish neighbors. And
oh no,
both of their takeaways, it was like one of our 3-hour episodes, and they clicked on like a topic that theoretically interested them. Like, obviously they don't know anything about video games, but they picked like some kind of topic they might want to listen to. And they listened for 20 minutes, and both of them are like, what the hell are these guys talking about? When are they going to get into talking about video games? They're just talking about stuff. And it's just, and then her other comment was like, TJ, you just always with the cursing. You curse so much on the show. And as an adult, now I'm like, I think cursing makes me sound unprofessional, Johnny. I actively try to not curse, or at least curse less. So when it comes out, I really can't control my emotions, and I'm really feeling something about it when there's some stupid thing that I Am 8-Bit does or limited run game.
Yeah. I do not try to control my cursing, which I'm sure is apparent. I've done it a few times.
I don't read my YouTube comments, but on one of my popular videos, there's like thousands of comments, and I don't read them because I'm too socially anxious for that. One of the comments I happened to read was just everyone was flaming them in responses like, you jerk, what the hell are you talking about? But it was just like, it would really sound a lot nicer if you didn't have to use that F word so much while talking about a topic like notes. And it just made me feel so bad that I'd let this person down. I just wanted to talk about notes, but they had to listen to my harsh language. And I feel
they
bad
should fucking get over it. Sorry. Look, these are just words. I don't get too wrapped up in the idea of this. It's hard for me to be mad. Like, I teach JD, like, oh yeah, you can't say that. But like, even in the car, he knows that they're car words. And that's like, okay, they're just words. It's no real different than any other words. People have attached an emotional value to this.
Johnny, where I was going with this is that we have a new person in the Discord, Cozy.
Yeah.
What a cozy name. Who is listening to the podcast in order and just got to the episode with the new guy, me being the new guy. So he's been enjoying Collector's Quest for, I don't know, a few dozen episodes with you and Kat. And
a few dozen. I did the timeline. I think he said he went backwards, though.
Oh, is the new guy Stefan then?
I think so.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure he was still going to like the podcast because I think it has changed pretty significantly from when it was a focused 20-minute discussion about talking vegetables and video games with Kat.
Hey, you enjoyed that podcast, or there was
nothing else.
I
listened to it.
Or there was nothing else. Did we get better or worse? I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm in the mood for different thing. Like every piece of content has a certain mood. I don't think Collector's Quest is exactly I'm here to get a real 15-minute like concise view of a topic. I think maybe Collector's Quest is a little bit more rambly background noise than that kind of content.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're right. We have changed, and that's fine. We changed, and the audience has changed. The audience has turned over many times. And we've gone through some iterations. We're going to hit 10 years of, like when Kat and I, like the more official version of the podcast soon, but technically since inception, we're over 10 years, which is crazy.
I mean, we kind of talk about Kat like she's ancient history. I mean, she was on a while ago, but you know what? Going 60 plus episodes in any podcast is not a common thing.
No.
I like look for new podcasts. I just like put into a search engine a topic I'm interested in. Most podcasts burn out after like 11 episodes or like 3 episodes a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, and she hit 65 episodes about, so
Yeah.
which is pretty good. And she was on over a year, and we went weekly, but it was only 30 minutes.
Yeah. I need more podcasts. So guys, just make podcasts. Here, I just saw a great sentiment online. If 20 people listen to your podcast, hey, how great would it be to be in a room with like 20 of your friends? Like all the metrics, like the social media has skewed what popularity is so much. Like if you have less than 1 million views on something, you're like, "Oh, well, I didn't go viral." But like 20 years ago, you couldn't get a million eyeballs on anything you made. There just wasn't that kind of world we lived in. You have to make like a feature-length Hollywood movie to get those kind of views, or like a TV show. Whereas now you could tweet something and like, well, if I do really good, 200,000 people will like this, but that's not a normal thing to happen.
No, and I mean that's kind of the view we took a long time ago. When it was like when like we've never really chased audience, and we've always been, hey, if you like what we're doing, I appreciate that. Really, it sounds like platitudes and bullshit and things just people say, but look, I just appreciate it because we do this for us still. Like we enjoy talking about it. So when we find people that like this too, that's awesome because we're doing this because we're not chasing an audience, we're not making a bunch of money. This is just stuff we like. So if you're here with us, that's cool. It is like we're hanging out with friends. It's why I always feel uncomfortable when people are like, oh, we're fans, and I'm like, we're just friends. Like let's just all be cool with each other and I not like get into this weird thing. I guess it's not weird for some people, but for me, it's always just like, I just want to hang out with people who like the things I like. That's not so bad. I'm not looking for a full echo chamber on all of my beliefs, but on like video games and stuff, like let's talk about the stuff that we all like together. That's awesome.
Johnny, I do have some bad news about that.
Oh no.
This shared hobby we have of collecting video games, a lot of hobbies, collecting hobbies, do have an aspect of value to them.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for us, it's all going to zero for video games.
Oh, no.
And this community is going to be kaput, and we're not going to have any friends in the very near future. It's all going to be gone.
So are you saying the only reason we collect is for value?
Yes, that's the only reason anyone collects anything is for the value to go up. It's actually called an alternative investment class is what we collect.
Oh, should I be... I feel like I should change my tone of voice if we're talking about investables. Investable is a word I've made up to describe collectible grade investments. These are investables, right?
They are.
Excellent. So, Tyler, should we talk about our 401ks again or get into our alternative asset class?
Alternate assets, Johnny. I think, so Rally Road, still a thing. I believe, what did they have? They had like a gyromite or an ice climber, a Clue Land, something like that. It was like a sticker sealed one, and it went down in value like 60% since they bought it, and they just had the poll on whether or not they got like an offer to buy it at like 60% lower value, and their investors handily rejected it. Anyway, my fractional share investments are doing great. Let me tell you about those.
How much did you invest?
I can't even come up with a funny answer to that.
A funny answer would be any amount of money would be hilarious, Tyler.
Thank you for saving that.
Yeah, any amount of money would make me laugh. So things are going to zero. How do you want to describe that? This is the episode, guys. We're talking about how everything's going to zero. And give up now. It's over.
Okay, so that's obviously hyperbole, but I do want to give the bear case for video games as a collectible. That's kind of the real focus of this episode. Not that I agree with that every single thing that I'm going to argue for is going to come true, but I'm going to take the devil's advocate position that video games are not going to be a long-term, very high value, always goes up collectible. And I think probably of most people in video game, I give that opinion a lot that I'm pessimistic on a lot of the future of video games, but I wanted to put it all into an episode, all the arguments, even the ones I don't agree with. And then you can agree with me, you could devil's advocate, or you could genuinely disagree with me. And we'll take it from there, Johnny.
Okay. I'm here for your episode, but I think a lot of our beliefs on this is the same. I mean, also I'm of the long-standing opinion that you shouldn't view this necessarily as an investment. You should never spend more than you can afford to lose on this stuff, because I'm not convinced that it will forever be an investment. Now, I'm not saying that certain things won't always hold value and like be okay, but there are definitely things that I am suspect of.
So,
And did you watch the latest auctions? They just had a signature auction. Did you take anything away from that?
oh, that would have been a great thing to come in here with. So what I did, what I do with the signature auctions is I browse for things that I think I can realistically win. Because heritage auctions, you can realistically win stuff. There is stuff that slips through the cracks. There is stuff that goes like unnoticed. But with signature auctions, anything that says like Mario, Pokemon, Zelda, like anything good, and it's all the good stuff, it goes nuts. And the one thing I thought I might be able to win was a UK mid-grade PC big box Grand Theft Auto 2. Sealed,
Okay.
of course. I didn't even bid on it, but that was the only thing I even looked at, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I could win that.
So I watched a bit of it because it was broken up into two things, and boy, is that long. And they take so long. I don't even understand how they do their thing. You know, here's how little I knew about heritage auctions, because there was like an auction. It's like, oh, scheduled for this. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go check in on this one. I didn't understand that's just when the auction show started, and then it was going to be an item number in the middle of that auction.
What do you mean it was going to be an item number in the... Oh, you didn't know it goes one item at a time?
Yeah.
Wow,
I thought like... Well, because I just saw the auction. I just saw the item, and it's like ends or starts at blah. So I thought that's when the bidding would begin for it. I'm like, oh, I just want to see how that item does. And then it was like, oh no, that's like item 80. We're at like item 85.
No, you're going to be here for 4 hours, dude, for a big auction. Yeah, it's like multiple hours over multiple days.
Yeah, I didn't know it. I was watching Get the Greg Games streaming it live. And he was saying that him and Henry, I think or maybe it was just him, that they were largely over in what they thought would happen. But there was a few big sales in there. So, but I'm not the right guy to look at that stuff because I have no context.
I'm seeing $106,000 for a 9.8 A++ Pokemon Blue misprint.
There was a bunch of Pokemon stuff in the middle of that.
And it outsold the Pokemon Red. Yes, that did not happen in 2021. That was one of the things I was most upset about in 2021, because I think Charizard is stupid, and the Pokemon Blue misprint, which is the earliest identifiable US version of Pokemon, is one of the absolute best things in video game collecting, and it's so much better than just having a fucking Charizard because people like Charizard. Anyway, happy to see
sure.
that outsold Charizard, which 9.9 only went for $94,000.
That is so much money. Carly was watching with me a little bit because she was home, and I just had it on the background while I was working. And she was like, she had no idea that games were, she's like, are you spending this much money on games? I was like, God, no. What do you think? What do you think we have? What kind of money do you think we have? That she's like, well, you have so many games and like these numbers are crazy. I'm like, yeah, that's not me, dear. This is not my life.
It's fun to watch it though.
Yeah. I mean, it was something.
I guess the other, I'm just browsing some big ones. The 9.4 A+ first print TM NES Zelda, $300,000, which is what I would have guessed it went for, but that's like, maybe the best thing you could own in video games besides like a matte Mario, but you can't get that sealed. So in terms of sealed stuff, this would be probably, I think, the best thing you could possibly own. Oh, and that's like right in line with what I think they have been selling for.
So will you explain to people what this variant is? Because you just call it.
I do. Yeah, no, we do need to explain things. So
yeah.
On the first print of The Legend of Zelda for NES, if you look all the way at the bottom of the box, it says Nintendo Entertainment System. And after system, there will be a TM rather than a registered trademark. And that's how you know it's the first print of Zelda.
Yep. And what about the Pokemon Blue variant?
The Pokemon Blue misprint, if you flip it over to the back, there's kind of
A bullet.
There's a paragraph and then there's bullets. In the very first bullet, it says red version when it's supposed to say blue version because they just cut and paste the text from the other one.
Yeah. So it should say collect up to 139 different Pokemon playing the blue version. And then this one says the red version. And that's on the back of the blue box.
Yeah. And there's other variants besides that. That's out of all the Pokemon stuff, that's the only one I really care about. That's the one I want. And this was a perfect condition one. I just think that's just like the best thing. Sold for double what like a mint Chrono Trigger sold for. Chrono Trigger's dead. Only $52,000.
Now, is that a good sale or is that a bad sale for like, because putting anything into the perspective of Pokemon is insane. So what does that mean?
It's so hard to say because like with this kind of stuff, like 9.6 A++ might have sold for like $60,000 less. These are such niche, like little minor things can cause the biggest swings. Like who was up bidding that day? Because like how many people are spending $100,000 in video games? It's hard to. I don't know what's a good and a bad sale.
Yeah, so I think one of the things they were saying, and again, because I'm a novice, so you'll just have to take their word for it, is that they didn't think there wasn't any of the big people, none of the whales had showed up. So there was like maybe a couple, but there was no whales fighting. So prices didn't super spike on anything.
I mean, a lot of these prices I'm seeing are kind of in line with what I think a lot of this stuff has sold for in the past. Some even like a little bit higher, but like you can't tell me that a video game sold for $300,000 and like, oh, but there were no whales bidding.
Well, no, not that they weren't fighting, that they weren't like getting in each other's way. So there was no like clash, I guess.
The only other thing, I mean, a lot of these things are in line. Another interesting sale, NBA Elite 11 on the PS3, 90 plus, sold for $25,000. I don't even, that's more than the sealed Magical Chase sold for. And you know what? I don't even really hate it. I would rather have the Magical Chase, but Elite 11 is really cool.
Elite 11 and the gun sold. Elemental Gearbolt gun sold for a good chunk of money.
$26,000 for the Elemental Gearbolt Assassin's Case with the gold memory card. So Johnny, all right, I want to. So we're talking about all these ridiculous video game sales. I want to say, when I say it's all going to zero, I probably don't mean this stuff. A first print mint condition Zelda on NES, that's never going to zero. In 100 years, that still won't be zero. That is something. I don't know if it's still going to be worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, when I say it's all going to zero, I mean in the sense that when you think of Skylanders as a collectible, everybody knows there is a time limit on how collectible Skylanders will be. Because Skylanders was a thing for 5 or 10 years. There's a very specific age group of people who are interested in that. And they no longer make Skylanders. And you know, in 50 years, no one is going to know what a Skylander is. And there's going to be some social media group of the 13 people still collecting them. And maybe the rarest ones still do have a little bit of value. But the vast majority of Skylanders will just be junk at Goodwill or in the garbage, because in 50 years, no one's going to know what a Skylander is, because it was a thing that was an ephemeral thing for 10 years. Everyone knows that, like, if you don't think that, we are on different pages. So that's Skylanders. Then you think Funko Pops, and almost everyone would agree. Funko Pops are this ephemeral, fleeting fad. They've been in production for a long time. I don't know, 20 years? You know, one day they will eventually stop. Everyone will stop caring, and they will go to zero because they're essentially modern day Beanie Babies. And Beanie Babies, we can already agree, have gone to zero, essentially. Maybe there is some Beanie Baby with some value, but 99% of Beanie Babies have no real value.
I just had to tell a coworker today, I'm not even kidding, that their Princess Diana Beanie Baby was not worth what they thought it was.
I own a Princess Diana because I think it's funny that people think it has value.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, it's not expensive." I thought that was like really expensive. I was like, "It's like $20." Sorry,
it's cool though. People remember it.
Yeah, people.
It's probably the most iconic Beanie Baby, and I think that's something.
Look, I'm not saying it's not something. I'm just saying it's not valuable right now.
I mean, you kind of overvalued it. It's worth more like 15, I think. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I said about $20. So, do with that info what you will. But yeah.
So, Johnny, in the bearish case for video games, the main core of my argument is that physical video games as a collectible or even as just a physical thing that normal people buy essentially will exist from the Atari 2600 through the PlayStation 5. And yes, there are physical video games before Atari 2600. There will be physical video games after this generation, but we are really on the precipice of physical media dying. And that's not the topic of this episode, but everyone sees the writing on the wall. This is it, and we're going to have 50 or so years where physical video games were a thing, and that's it. And, Switch 2 is coming out, and we have, kind of physical video games, but it seems like a lot of them are going to be fake. So it seems like we're going to have we're not going to have a hard cutoff. We're going to have a slow puttering death because Nintendo decided that's what we're going to do. Thanks, Nintendo.
That's correct. Yes.
Johnny, if you didn't grow up with something, if you don't have an attachment to video games as a physical object, why would you care about collecting them? Because when was the last time you bought a CD or a movie? And you don't think about it, a normal person thinks of Pokemon cards as collectible and comic books as collectible. A normal person would not look at a sealed music CD and be like, oh man, Limp Bizkit, Nookie, that was part of my childhood. I want to own a graded copy of Nookie. And I think the vast majority of people think that now about video games. Imagine what your son is going to well, your son's a bad example because he grew up with you. But, the average 5-year-old now growing up with iPads and phones and everything being digital is going to think about physical media when they grow up.
Maybe they're going to look back. Maybe they're going to see the state of the world and they're going to be like, oh, we got it wrong. We let ourselves delve into subscription services and be dictated to by large corporations. And we should have taken our media into our own hands because now they control what we own.
See, that is like one of the best case scenarios is that people get fed up with subscriptions and corporate control and surveillance capitalism and all the terrible things that computers have become. And they're just like, I just want to own something. I want to stop putting up with the rentals. But you look at the trends and the state of the world and social media and how people use technology, and that is absolutely not where we're going. People are using Klarna to DoorDash burritos to their house. Like, technology is getting worse. People will put up with anything and do not care. I think you will have the hipster Gen Beta kids who are like, my video games are actually, I can hold them. Check this out. This is on a vintage console called the Nintendo Wii. I bet you didn't even know this existed. But the rest of them will be off in the metaverse, downloading video games directly into their brains.
Okay, just a point of clarity. Klarna, for anyone who doesn't know, is like a service that you can pay over time your purchase. So it's basically like extending you credit. It's very scary. That everything is getting Klarna payments on it now. When almost every online shopping you do now, it'll be like, would you like to spread this over 4 payments? I've been looking in my bank account and it's like, would you like to spread this purchase over 4 payments? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? This is my credit card. I don't want to spread what are we doing? And I just obviously pay it completely. But this is the world we live in.
Johnny, publishers don't want video games to be collectible.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure. They want trading cards to be collectible and comic books to be collectible.
This is true. That is definitely the purpose. They do produce collector's editions, but even collector's editions aren't actually designed to be collectible. They're designed to get you to spend more money, but they don't think of it truly as a collectible object.
They're designed to be consumable. They're designed to, get you to post a RC car on Instagram or whatever you get with your amazing limited edition that is such a good value. But they don't want to give you a reason to buy a real physical copy of a game that is transferable and has value, because the ultimate end game is to make everything digital and to upsell you with subscriptions and DLC and battle passes and things like that. Because look at how much money a company like EA makes on video game sales versus video game add-ons like DLC and subscriptions and things like that. And then when you look at how much of those video game sales, already a small component compared to the DLC and all that crap, the physical video game sales is almost nothing now. They growing that, if they grow that 5% by releasing a more collectible version of the next Assassin's Creed game, that is nothing compared to how much they could get by releasing, a golden horse for the Assassin's Creed game and selling it for $5.99.
This is true.
Which it would take them literally nothing to do that. There's no manufacturing costs, there's no shipping, there's no distribution. Oh, by the way, shipping's getting more expensive now because we got tariffs. They want you to rent digital games locked into your account.
Of course they do. Tyler, that's yes, this is the model. They don't want you to own things. This is not designed. These are not Pokemon cards meant to be desirable. They're meant to just be a thing that they can get you to waste some money and some time on, and then move on to the next thing that they put out.
All right, my next point, Johnny. Physical media sucks now, and it's kind of sucked for, I don't know, since at least the Wii U. That's what I really remember. Like, it was probably the end of the Wii where they stopped doing like manuals for every. Is that true? Were there Wii games without manuals, or was it just Wii U?
No, there was Wii games without manuals.
But you know what? The Wii went on so long, it was probably games that came out in the Wii U era.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Physical video games are basically a means to an end now. It is not an experience opening a video game. In fact, it kind of sucks opening a video game. Every time I open a video game, because I have opened so many exciting video games in my life, whenever I open a fucking Switch game, I'm like, man, that's it. That thing is so small in there. There's nothing in here. Damn, I just blew $70 on that, huh?
The Switch case is so light and nothing. It feels like nothing.
And I like Switch cases too.
What, what strikes me is every time I open a Switch case, I'm just like, this case is too big. Which is crazy because it's already nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just big for the shelf presence. That's it.
Yeah. I wish they were DS cases. But they definitely wanted it to be tall equals consoles, short equals handhelds.
I mean, yeah, they need it to appear more substantial than a 3DS game, so like, oh, this is a real game. This is for the console. Like Johnny, that case could have literally been any size. They spent like $1 million in R&D developing the perfect size because they were going to have to print so many millions of these cases. We need the perfect amount of shelf presence and the minimal amount of plastic, and they got everything just right.
Except for they didn't consider how the art would look on it when they put all their stupid shit on it. So they always look like trash.
Well, we'll talk about Switch 2 games one day because the Switch 2 cases have some big ugly bars on them.
Oh my god, they're so ugly.
Johnny, keeping in the theme with physical media is lame now, and publishers want to sell you digital games and subscriptions and live services. Most of the most popular games these days don't have a significant physical release. And I'm not even going to go in. I don't even have recent games. The biggest games I could think of that, maybe from the past 10, 15 years, Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox, PUBG, League of Legends. Everyone owns these digitally. Or if they have a physical version, it's like not the real thing. Like sometimes the original thing came out on PC, like Minecraft, and then it was ported to everything 2 years later. But then like none of those versions are kind of the thing to own. Minecraft Xbox 360 edition is just like a bullshit version of Minecraft. It's not Minecraft. The Fortnite that's on Xbox and PS4 is not Fortnite. It's like Fortnite saves the world, and it's like every copy of Super Mario Brothers is the exact experience that everyone had. Like a physical version of Fortnite, like what is even on that disc? It's definitely not the experience that every 11-year-old is going home to and playing for 6 hours a day today.
No, you're definitely not finding the version with an AI version of Darth Vader who says funny things. That's not in that copy of Fortnite.
And even when, and so a lot of the time, people like with this Fortnite release, people want to have a collectible version of a really important game like a Minecraft or a League of Legends. And there actually is. There's a rare version of Minecraft for the Xbox 360. The first print of it, the second print, not rare. First print of it is the version that comes with the 2-week Xbox Live trial. And a sealed version is it's not really that rare. I bet it's not rare. It's just expensive. But I think it just sold for $15,000 on this signature auction. And then there's a League of Legends collector's pack, which is a physical PC thing for League of Legends. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't matter because no one had these. These aren't like things anyone remembers. These are things that nitpicky collectors had to like think about and track down because there wasn't an obvious thing that people wanted to collect. No one woke up in 2015 and was like, man, Minecraft's pretty cool. Should we collect something? Oh yeah, the first print Xbox 360 Minecraft should be the collectible one. No one was thinking that. Some random collectors made that up. And it's just like, everyone owned Super Mario Brothers. Everyone owned Super Mario 64. Everybody owned The Legend of Zelda. These are all like very obvious real things that we all have a collective experience of owning. And no one owned the freaking League of Legends collector's pack. And one has sold, I think, for tens of thousands of dollars. I forgot exactly what that one sold for. I don't necessarily disagree with that sale if, I understand League of Legends is an important game. That's a very rare piece of memorabilia for a very important game. But on the whole, we're only going to have to increasingly come up with fake collectibles for the most important games ever made.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not new to collectibles. That's kind of how it's been done.
What do you mean?
I think people have gone out and the process of assigning value or finding the thing to assign value to, whether it is the rarest or best thing, has always been a subjective thing. Like we've gone out and said, oh wait, no, this is the one. This is the one that's going to be the one we chase after. And then as time goes on, as the collectible matures, maybe some of that gets more fleshed out. But I think that's how a lot of things start. Now, video games should be more mature than that, but they haven't matured to that state exactly.
I mean, so the most popular game on Steam right now is Counter-Strike 2. And no matter what, I'll never be able to own anything with Counter-Strike. There's not a physical release of Counter-Strike 2. You're lying if you're telling me there's a physical release of Counter-Strike 2. The whole Counter-Strike ecosystem is based on like letting underage kids gamble on skins. They're not gonna, it's not about selling physical releases. It's about getting you spend hundreds on spinning those slot machines.
Are you sure?
I don't know. But Marvel Rivals, that's a terrible example. But yeah, obviously there's never going to be a physical release of Marvel Rivals. It's just an increasing thing that goes on. Like Apex Legends is a huge game. There's no physical release of Apex Legends. And this kind of sucks because the thing is, you can own every important video game from the 80s and you will literally have them all. There was no like only online, only digital thing. I don't know. We've talked about this before. I just think, once we get to the Xbox 360, that's where I start to feel like, yeah, you have the set, but like half the Xbox 360 games I remember are from Xbox Live Arcade. So you don't really have every game, even when you have the set.
It's true. The definitely part of what made that console great is not obtainable.
And Johnny, last point on physical media is obviously kids don't grow up with physical media anymore. Physical media sales peaked in 2008. I brought this up on the Greg podcast. I don't remember where I pulled this statistic from. I don't mean the prices people pay for physical games. I mean the general public buying CDs and DVDs and video games peaked in 2008, which is crazy. And that must be because of iTunes. That iTunes killed the CD market.
It's got to be the confluence of iTunes, Netflix, and all of that happening at the same time. Because that you had iTunes doing its thing. You had Netflix even when they were sending out discs, so that was making people buy less. Blockbusters were closing. All of these places where physical media were housed started to deteriorate. Best Buy started to reduce their shelf space and have been since. Yeah, physical media has been in a state of retraction for a very long time.
And so we've all kind of lived through this, and we think there's something special about video games, like, oh yeah, music and movies, those are fleeting, and those can obviously just be digital rentals and one-time things, but video games are these things I play for 20 and 30 hours, and these are bigger things that I'm going to really want to own. That is absolutely not true. On the scale, when you zoom out, people are going to look at the early 2000s and like from 2000 to 2050 and be like, oh yeah, somewhere in here, everything became in the cloud and computers. There's nothing special about video games not being able to be completely digital, completely streamed, having the Netflix model. It's just that it's taken a couple more decades for the technology to get to the point of iTunes and Netflix for video games. And now here we are, and PC is entirely Steam now. No one in the universe has bought a physical PC game in 20 years. And console, we have Xbox Game Pass, and I think there's the PlayStation equivalent of Game Pass that no one talks about, unless people do, but I only ever hear people talk about Game Pass. But it's happening. We're getting to iTunes where no one's going to buy a CD anymore.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you come up with this argument later, but like, are you in part of this saying, like, I think one of your comparisons was movies, right? Because no one collects movies. Is this a point you're bringing up later, or is this?
No, we could talk about that now.
Okay, because I have a rebuttal to that point, because I thought you were going to go into this because you were talking about the DVDs and no one buying DVDs and music anymore.
All right. What's up? I think people do, but I think it's niche and it's not. All right. So I'm sure there is a market for like really rare CDs and really rare DVDs that are off in their own little community. But if I was to collect CDs, I could buy every single thing I want with absolutely no problem. And it would all cost me like less than $30 each, easily, probably well less than that. And that's just not something that would happen with video games right now.
Okay.
But what's your rebuttal like? You're going to tell me that movies are more collectible than I realize or something?
No. Well, first, like for music, I was going to say vinyl is a thing. So music is interesting because there's been takeaway music. And by that, I mean cassettes, 8 tracks, vinyl for kind of a long time. Movies are a more recent acquisition. Like, people didn't really start owning movies until the 80s. They've had movies as a collectible for less time than they've had video games kind of as a collectible. Or roughly on par with each other.
Who's they?
They, the people, this world, movies, like, even though movies have been around for a long time, the ability to take home a movie and own it and make it be a collectible has only existed since, what, the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay, like, and at one point, most of that was controlled by video rental stores, and that was charged a premium. So not that many people could own that. Music, you could take away earlier. Video games, computer games and stuff, that was kind of a little bit earlier for like PCs and Ataris and stuff. So I'm just saying, like, we've only actually had these things for a short, like 40-ish years where they could actually be collectibles. So I don't know if I'm completely out on if these things were going to be collectible, they would already be more collectible than they are now. Because it's like, oh, well, movies have existed since the 1950s or 40s or 30s, all the different iterations of movies. But they haven't really had the ability to be taken home and consumed and collected in this way, for that amount of time. Only like 40 years. In music, vinyl was kind of the format that was that was picked and has become the thing that's collectible now, and people are collecting vinyl. Video games are a bigger challenge because there's no unified format. So I don't know. I just feel like I don't know if I love that argument. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just a little leery to close the door on it because I don't think enough time has passed.
But the more time that passes, the more the window of physical music, movies, and video games is smaller. It's smaller in comparison to all time that has passed. Because books, we can go back to the Gutenberg Bible I don't know when that is. The
Collectible, by the way.
10, the thousands, the 1300s, something like that. And we've had books for hundreds and hundreds of years, and books are like a bona fide, absolutely real collectible. I don't think if you have the bull case for video games being like a quote unquote real collectible, like a long term, people are going to be spending millions of dollars on the top video games type thing. You want video games to become books. And I understand, like, you see, like, oh, video games are so significant, culturally significant. Everyone plays video games. They're so big. They make the most money. It's bigger than movies now. You want video games to become the next books. I don't think if you are making the bull case for video games, you want them to become the next vinyl, because vinyl is as popular as vinyl collecting is, it is still kind of a niche hipster thing to collect. Do we hear, I mean, I don't know enough about the vinyl market. Do we hear about $1 million vinyl sales?
I don't think so.
See, it doesn't matter if one exists. The thing is, we don't hear about it. Like, I hear about Pokemon card sales. I will hear about, you'll hear the off, like, art sale, like a quote-unquote real collectible art. You're like, oh, some stupid painting sold for $43 million. But I don't hear about vinyl sales in, like, an exciting... who's that DJ guy, like, pumping it, or like a Logan Paul trying to pump it kind of way.
Yeah. So I'm still unsure. Again, books, like, to use books. Books have had so much time. When did books start becoming collectible? Yeah, people housed them, but it was like books were expensive. You couldn't have libraries back in the day because paper was so expensive. Like, and I'm talking about going way back. And then,
I mean, does that mean books were always collectible then? Because, like, they were for rich people.
I don't know. I mean, when they started, kind of, right? Not everyone could enjoy that. And now, as kind of it became less, and we're talking over hundreds of years, obviously, that this happened. Books did become collectible. Not all books, but the vast majority of books, no one gives a shit about. That's the other thing. The vast majority, so many books come out all the time now. Not all of it is collectible. So, what is the case for video games? Is this the case, or like books had the ability to exist before the technology kind of collapsed on itself, which is what is happening with video games. Not that video game technology is going away, but the way distribution of video games happens is going away because there's just a better, more corporate friendly model that exists now.
And that's the problem, is that books kind of, even though books have only been around for, 600, 700 years, they feel like they have been around forever and they will be around forever. And on a long enough time scale, physical movies, music, and video games will be a blip, compared to before 1970, after the 2020s. It'll just be like, oh, this was that weird moment where we had to buy these things on, like, physical discs and physical cartridges we had to have. What a weird time. It would be like looking back at computer software on punch cards. It's like, oh, isn't that weird that people used to have to do that? Anyway, I'm going to go download a program off the internet because this is the normal way we do things now. Johnny, when I say, when I'm giving the bearish case for video games, I don't think that, your mint condition Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon Blue are going to be the problem, because general collectors, like rich old guys, that's the stuff they want. They want the stuff that is immediately recognizable. So if they have a collection and their collection is just like, big mansion, and he's got like the best sports cards and the best comic books and the best cars, all this cool stuff, and he wants a few video games, he's gonna be like, all right, let me get like a Super Mario Brothers, a Zelda, and what's this? People like this Chrono Trigger. This one's good. That's the stuff that can maintain value. When I'm giving a bear case, it's gonna be like, Little Samson, Snow Bros, stadium events, NBA Elite 11. Like, I don't think these are like long-term things that people will be excited for decades. And another quote I'll come back to is my favorite guy, Reserved Investments. Probably my favorite thing he ever said was, no one will care about Spider-Man in 500 years, which is His way of saying that, like, all pop culture eventually turns to dust. You don't care about whatever the pop culture was in the 1500s.
You
Some
sure
weird
about
guy
that?
in a museum does. But for the most part, all of that is absolutely dead.
Are you
Even
sure?
if it is the most popular thing in the world right now.
Are we sure about that?
Are we sure? Unless you're going to say, like, Tyler, the Bible is huge.
I mean, the Bible is still pretty big.
It is. I mean, there was a whole book about that called The Book of Eli.
So I'm just going to say Shakespeare, we still care about. And all of the characters and stories created therein.
We had a discussion on this, and it went back to, I think we mostly talked about movies. I can't remember if it was on the main show or After Dark, but you zoom out. The more you zoom out, the more you only pick out, like, the absolute best things of each period of time. And so zooming out on, like, the 1400s or whatever, yeah, wow, the complete works of William Shakespeare, it's amazing. That was 100 years. Like, how much stuff was written in 100 years that none of us remember from that period? It's like, wow, I could pick out, like, 10 maybe amazing movies from the 1940s. There were probably a lot of movies that came out in the 1940s that were not good or not worth remembering, at least.
And sure, I'm just saying, one, I understand Reserved Investments' point when he tries to say Spider-Man, but if we're talking about, like, what are the biggest stories, is Spider-Man going to be one of the biggest characters to come out of the last 100 years that might be remembered in 500 years? And also, it's kind of a shallow argument because the ability to really record and have media present for hundreds of years, didn't really exist then. We're only hitting that point now. And we have an internet where things never die and are never lost, theoretically. I say that very loosely. So the idea that all this stuff no one's going to remember, I think things like obscure things have more permanence than they have ever had.
Really? You think obscure things have more permanence than they've ever had?
Yeah,
I feel like if I saw a YouTube short, like, I couldn't find that the next day, let alone a year from now.
I'm true. I'm obscure being in, like, on the zoomed out level, like, there's 1,000 movies that come out, right? And we only remember 2 of them. What I'm saying, like, a movie is not really obscure because now for any movie to come out, it requires a Herculean effort and a lot of fucking money. So what I'm saying is, even if it's an obscure movie, if people saw it and people recorded it, more people are recording their experience with things than have ever recorded their experience before and submitting that to a giant database of the internet for people to look at and find later and then find relevance in. And we are in an era of no more ideas and everything is recycled and regurgitated, and IP property has become more important than it ever has become. So I don't know where that leaves us in 500 years when you say something like no one's going to remember Spider-Man in 500 years. I just don't know if I believe that, and I think it's short-sighted, and it's not actually looking at technology and everything that has happened in the world. Comparing the 1500s to right now is fucking ludicrous and stupid. Like, it's to make your point and to feel smart when you say something, and it's not actually being very circumspect. And I back off of that point a little bit. Yes, I agree. We had the whole episode we're talking about, is this really going to matter in 100? A lot of things probably are not. We went through the whole video game list of, like, what we thought would be relevant. But in the same breath, I just think things are going to exist for longer than maybe we are giving them credit for.
I think you will be able to find information about Spider-Man. I don't think that humanity has 500 years left in us, but that's a different story, at least as we exist now. But you would be able to find information about Spider-Man in 500 years. Like, more information is retained, but I don't think the average person in 500 years even knows that Spider-Man exists. Because how many things do we know that exist from the 1400s?
But that's what I'm saying, because it was so much harder to know the things that happened then. There was no, like, someone painted a picture, so our understanding of the Renaissance is through, glimpses of paintings and stuff. We have all of recorded visual history now going forward. Everybody's on their phones doing everything. What I'm saying is, like, these aren't going to be things you have to imagine or you can't really imagine. You're going to be able to look at it in detail and live it. Like, you're
but
going
why
to be
would
able
anyone
to see
care to? Like, even if you knew more stuff that came out in the 1400s, this is a ridiculous example, but still, you don't care about any of that stuff.
But
like no one is. You think people are going to remember the Hunger Games in 500 years?
I didn't say the Hunger Games, but
I know, but
did you? I don't think Spider-Man and Hunger Games are on the same level. Spider-Man has existed.
Spider-Man is not on the level of being remembered in 500. I think like you have to pick like one thing from the entire past 100 years.
But I don't think it's going to be.
I
don't think it's going to be one thing. I think that's short-sighted. That's what I'm telling you. I think there is going to be more there, because why are people going to care? It's not that they're necessarily even going to care. I think things are going to permeate longer because it's harder for them to be lost. Like, it was hard for people to understand or know or care about the things of the 1400s because it was all just history books and stuff. And now everyone just has YouTube videos talking about something. And I just think there's going to be more of that moving forward, not less.
Okay, let's go into my second point, because this leads into my second point, Johnny. There is too much stuff for anyone to care about any one thing already, let alone how much more information will be generated in the next 500 years. But there used to be, a few hundred video games on an entire console, and that is what came out over the course of like 8 years. And now it's like you could go on Steam and there's 100 new games released on Steam every single day. Let alone like when you get into like indie and smaller games, like you could go on like itch and GitHub and just download like infinite new games that are coming out all the time because there's information overload. And not only does it make it hard for people to care about any one thing as much just because there's just so much more you could possibly be doing, but it also means that people aren't coalescing around games as much as they used to. As a kid, very reliably, every single person I knew on this planet Earth played Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. Right now, like, the only reason my friends play the same games together is we literally have to go and force each other to buy the game that we're playing so we can all play together, because there's no way we would all end up on the same game just by happenstance.
No, I don't disagree with that. And we've talked about it. We live in a world of less shared culture, right? But we also live in a world of less lost things. I just think that people are going to be able to find things if they want to. So saying no one's going to know. And like, we also live in an era where no idea can be forgotten or lost. So I just feels like an era of fewer ideas. So more things will end stricter IP laws. So more things are going to be recycled and forced on people for longer periods.
I think in 500 years, everyone is going to think that Spider-Man is super lame. And actually, they're going to think everything is super lame. Because in our short little lifespans, we look at comic books from like the Silver Age, and like some Silver Age stories are good. I've read a bunch of different Silver Age. I've read, Aquaman, Superman, Green Lantern, and like some of the stories are good, and some of them are like, yeah, this is pretty lame. I don't know. Compared to, I guess, the average way a story would be written today, over the scale of like multiple generations. Just like imagine how much storytelling and all that kind of stuff can change into what people think is even worth remembering.
I'm just trying to. Amazing Fantasy came out in what? 1962 or 3 or something?
I like this episode is not about that quote that I just like for its
I know,
success.
but
okay,
I
let's
mean,
talk about Spider-Man more.
No, I know. I'm just using it as a proxy. I don't like care about Spider-Man that much either. I'm just saying, like, as an idea, if it is all going to zero, like you can make this video game. You can make it Mario, not Spider-Man. Okay, Mario came out, whatever you want to say, the first iteration of Mario, or you want to bring it to Super Mario or 1984 or whatever. I just think it's going to be around for longer and it's going to last for longer. So I'm trying to think of what I'm just trying to have a greater imagination than an inflammatory statement like no one's going to care about this in 500 years because look at history and without thinking of where history has gone and how technology and the future looks. I think it's far more likely that you're correct that we won't be here in 500 years for anyone to remember it than that things will be completely lost to time. I don't think that much will exist, but I think there will definitely be things. So
I'll put it this way. If I had to invest in a single object for 500 years, Spider-Man wouldn't even be in the universe of things that I would be investing in. Even in just books.
I mean, but it's, again, if we're talking about books are more collectible and they last longer, books have lasted. Comic books are just types of books.
I think, but you know what? On that kind of scale, like Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith is a document that's been relevant for, 250 years. And I think in another 500 years, people might still be learning about Wealth of Nations.
Do you think people will still be reading Romeo and Juliet in 500
exactly.
years? Do you? I'm asking. Do you think people will still be reading Romeo and Juliet in 500? Okay. What and why? Like,
I'm not an English teacher.
Okay. I'm just saying. So there are many examples of these stories. They've been regurgitated in many different lights. So I'm saying this has been a key idea. So this is kind of my point. It's like Shakespeare is kind of become a franchise piece, right? So Shakespeare is almost like just a shorthand for a collection of stories, almost like a company that just turned out a bunch of books, much like I think like a Marvel or a DC could look like in the future. Now, these stories obviously don't. I know there's some people rolling their eyes so hard at this, but the idea that there's just this package of stories that will exist and there's so much of it, I don't know. I think there's something there and something to be said. Now, how relevant will it be? I don't know. I just don't think everything's going to be lost. I think most things will like go down to a hum, but the ability to find things and know things and for people to just like get into the weeds, it's always going to be getting easier, right? From this point on, not going to get harder. Like, I don't think anyone in the 1500s could imagine that this is where we would be. So it's hard for me to say in 500 years where we will be, and knowing that I can look back and say like, oh, we were so far from all this, and look at how much easier technology has made everything for us to find and to get and to know. 500 years, I imagine that gets easier, not harder.
Just to get where you're at on this 500-year time horizon, which I love that we're still talking about. Do you think people will care about the Lego Ultimate Collector's Series Millennium Falcon in 500 years?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. No.
Because they absolutely will not.
No.
Literally will be garbage.
No, but I think if we say, will people know what Lego is in 500 years? I will say probably. I don't know if...
I think they'll certainly be able to look it up. I don't know if the average person on the street will know what Lego is.
I mean, I think if anyone is interested in the history of toys or what toys become, that's the other thing is, like, what are toys even becoming? That's a whole different story of the decline of toys and children's play, and what does that mean in the world when action figures are more consumed by adults than they are by children, and children are just, the things they play with now are just iPads. So what does that mean for toys, and as they become digital ideas transferred from their physical ones? When we're all plugging into the Matrix to play, what does that mean? There will be some history where Lego is recorded as an object, of great popularity and at one point wealth.
Sure, just
does
like
that
Lionel trains and Hot Wheels, the hottest collectibles.
Well, I mean, I think Lego has done more business.
I mean, they certainly do, and they're
like,
much better at turning themselves into a collectible. They know what they're doing.
Right. So, and also Lionel Trains kind of came out in, again, like this kind of pre-time. Once the advent of the internet changes so many things. So it's just hard. It's hard for me to fully wrap my head around how much the internet changes things for the future. You know, also we are kind of in a bit of technology slowdown where things aren't advancing as fast as they were. So do things just kind of stagnate for a little while? I don't know what the world looks like.
Man, we could have an after dark about that, Johnny, because they're not stagnating. Things are getting worse.
Well, depending on how you look like, it's like the on-ramping of AI and everything has created a different bubble, but that's not necessarily new technology. That's new to how it's being used and like what our computing power has, but the overall power has not like really grown in the leaps and bounds I think they initially thought it was. And so no new rapid technology outside of that has come out. You know, it's a different time. Like when you look back at like from the 20s to now, like what the rate of expansion was, it was pretty wild. I don't know if we're exactly on that same curve. Anyways, let's keep going on. I've derailed us. I'm sorry.
We've been derailed.
You hooked me with this one idea, and then I just, and look, it's not even the first time you've said it to me, and I always kind of push back on it. And I was like, I don't know. And now I kind of had a more salient idea of why I didn't like that as a statement.
All right, Johnny, I was talking about how my friends force me to buy games every once in a while. Basically every weekend they want to play something, the new trendy game, whatever, you know, Schedule 1 was the last one that I got dragged into.
You're going to play Claire Obscura's
that's the one he's talking about today. Exactly. Next week it's going to be the next trendy game.
Yeah.
In the 80s, let's go back to the 80s and 90s. I had to look forward to like a music album coming out because I literally didn't have enough music to listen to. And, or, you know, like a new video game. I had to wait every week for a certain slot to watch the next episode of a TV show. It took 26 weeks to watch one season of one TV show. There was like inherent delayed gratification.
It took longer than that.
And like I would miss things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny, I would wake up on Saturday morning and once the cartoons ended, I would just feel like, damn, I have nothing to do. Because I've already played all my video games. I don't have any new comic books. I've played with all my toys. I just have nothing to do. And now the way people consume media, people will have a movie playing on the TV in the background. They'll have Minecraft on the iPad and they'll be scrolling Twitter on their phone all at the same time.
Yes.
And nothing matters anymore. Everything is so fleeting.
So I saw a review. This is how crazy the world has gotten now. Like I was watching a review for Andor and they were kind of talking about it. They're like, oh yeah, there was just some talking heads talking about this. They're like, oh yeah, this is like definitely a show that you can't be doing like side scrolling while you're watching Andor. Like this is just a thing now. I'm like, oh, does yeah. And I catch myself I'm like, yeah, we're all multitasking. And it's crazy where we've got to. I remember like, it was the most amazing thing, Tyler, when I got my first DVR. Like I got a TiVo early in its inception. You know, I'm talking the year 2000. I got a TiVo and I was like, or maybe it was 2001, but I was in early. And just the idea that I could skip commercials and like not have to be home to get things recorded. And it was kind of easy. Like, man, my life changed. And now we're just in like, oh, why even watch anything? You can just watch a 6-minute YouTube wrap up of it, like, and get now you know everything you need to know, and that's the world we live in. Like every basketball game, I'm like, I didn't catch the full game, or I'm not going to be able to see that full game, but I guess it'll be like a 10-minute highlight package I can go find the whole story about. Like this is the world we live in has become crazy.
Johnny, Ada, we don't watch The Pit. It was like an HBO ER type show. Ada doesn't watch it, but she watches YouTube recaps of it because it basically just recaps the entire episode and is basically as good as watching the show. This is off topic, but...
Yeah. But I mean, it's just a symptom of the world we live in, right? And if we're making an argument for why everything is going to zero, it's because people just care about things. It feels like they are interested in a lot of things, but they truly care about or are passionate about so much less because their attention is spread and divided too far and wide.
And to play devil's advocate, you, I think, overrate the 80s as a decade in a lot of ways. Because
don't think I do.
It's the one you lived through. Same for me in the 90s.
I also lived through the 90s.
Hard. The problem is it's hard for me to look back and objectively rate this because something like, the release of Ocarina of Time for me, that was like, the event of the year.
It was a
but it's also because I was like 9 years old. So it's hard for me to objectively say like, oh, well, for a 38-year-old, they could just, Ocarina of Time was a weekend and then they moved on to the next thing with everybody else. But I don't think that's true. I don't think that someone in 1998, like an adult, churned through Ocarina of Time, like just blasted through it in 48 hours and then moved straight on to the next thing and stopped thinking about it. Like we blast through a lot of content these days.
No, I think you can look to movies and see exactly how this trend has gone. Because movies used to sit in the theaters in the 80s and 70s for a long ass time. I think if you look at how long Gone with the Wind was in theaters, it's an absurd number of years, Tyler. Like, not like a couple of months. I think Gone with the Wind was in the theater for over like 2 years or something. I might be misremembering that, but it was a long time. Star Wars ran and was like the number one picture for a long ass time. It wasn't like, oh, well, it was like I used to be very interested in movie performance. I don't know why I gave a shit about this, but I used to be like, oh, what was the movie? The number one movie this week. How long was it the number one movie? Oh, it stayed at number one for 6 weeks. This shit is like, oh, you made it 2 weeks? Awesome. 3 weeks? You did great. That was crazy that you were at the top of the charts for 3 weeks. And then sometimes a movie would have a resurgence and like recapture the number one over the summer after like falling down to number two for some big release. That shit just doesn't happen anymore. Movies just die off. They're on the branch for like 3 weeks, and then we're talking about when is it releasing on iTunes? When is this streaming? Is this gonna be released and streaming at the same time? You used to wait months to be able to, if you missed it in the theater, you waited maybe a year for it to come out on VHS. Like then it got like 6 months DVDs. Then it was like 5 or 6 months maybe if it came out. Now it's not like if it comes out, it's like, when is it going to be on iTunes? Next week? 2 weeks from now? How long do I have to wait?
Movies are kind of a perfect example because, again, I was a kid. I wasn't making purchasing decisions in my house, but watching like multiple movies in a night, that was just like never something that would happen. The only night that would happen was like Halloween when I had a sleepover with my friends. Whereas now, like, yeah, you could just throw on, Netflix or Amazon and you could blast through 3 movies. That's your night. It's just so easy. You don't have to go to the store and make a decision, and the thing you pick is important, and it costs money for each individual one. So you know what? Each individual movie you're watching, it's the one movie I'm watching for the week on my Friday night rental. I'm going to put thought into it. I'm going to be more invested in it than, I'm blowing through Wicked, Barbie, and Oppenheimer in the same night these days. That's not exactly what I'm doing. I'm not that blowing through content with movies, but I think on average we obviously consume way more movies than we used to.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm kind of saying our attention is spread over so many things. Also, anyone in this culture now watching YouTube videos, which is this other like form of bottomless content. It's like we all bought big gulps of entertainment when all we needed was like an 8-ounce can. And, we're just double gulping our way through entertainment for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. And I mean, it's ruined all of our brains and society. You know what? I'm not too worried about myself. I realize I have been ruined to some extent. Plus I'm already a collector, so my brain is already messed up, but oh my goodness, Johnny, the next generation, what's going on with them? I'm looking at all your kids. Everyone listening to this, you know what I'm talking about.
Brain Rot City. Here we go.
What is going on with them? What is going to happen? All of them are going to AI their way through school, learning nothing. Are like, if the machines don't take over for labor, like, we are screwed, because what are they going to do?
Dude, the world is a frightening place. Well, Tyler, let's tell me more reasons why everything is going to. I've kind of drug us through the muck here. Give me more reasons that this is going to zero and why I can't rely on this as an investment, because I think that's our point, and I think I submarined this whole thing. So let's drag us back.
Johnny, why isn't video game collecting a serious hobby yet? All right, so video games as a physical object, we're coming up, we're over 50 years, actually, because you can go back to the Odyssey 1 and some weird, slightly older stuff. But home video games been around since Odyssey 1, since Atari 2600, something like that, 1972, 1977. We have very, very few good collecting resources. And you know what? When you look at serious hobbies, and I'm talking coins, I'm talking stamps, I'm talking comic books, I bet Hot Wheels. You look at serious hobbies, they have serious catalogs and serious books that tell you how to collect something, what kind of things to look for, values. For video games, it would be things like variants and what releases matter and what are the key games and things like that. The best thing we ever got, unironically, was this. It was like the CGC guide. When CGC, it was like a year into CGC being a company, they launched like the video game collector's guide. And it was just like a bunch of basic details. It was like a little 50-page book of all like kind of some key games and like some little TM and R and circle seal versus oval seal stuff to look at. Probably the best single book we ever got on generally collecting video games. And there's some like niche examples. I'm thinking of there's a crazy Sierra collector who put out the Collector's Quest series, which is named after us, of course. But it's just these huge 500-page multiple volume catalogs of everything Sierra has ever done, detailed with like components inside the boxes. But it's only because there's this one crazy Sierra collector out there. If video games were a serious hobby, that should be out there for everything, let alone Nintendo. You can't get a Nintendo book that tells you what was in NES games. That's still like very obscure secret knowledge. Secret spreadsheets, like we know guys with like the variant and insert spreadsheets, and they're like, I'm gonna release it to fix it up. I'm gonna publish a book. How is that not out here yet? It's been a while.
It's true. We talk about this all the time, that you have to give people a roadmap on what to collect and how to collect. They need it, or they can't do it because it's too big. They have some ideas, but they can only take it so far by themselves without like really locking in, oh, this is how you do it.
And that is like, I've read so many collectible books that tell me like, oh, you want to collect stamps? Oh, go get a penny black from 1840, the first stamps ever issued. Here's a bunch of information about the variants. Here's why it's a cool thing to collect. Oh, here's some similar interesting stamps from Brazil. Like, there's YouTube videos and things that will tell you things like that, but that's not a serious thing. There are YouTube videos on Funko Pops. That's not what makes it serious. And, when I'm talking serious, I'm talking like spending $300,000 on a Legend of Zelda. There's clearly people speculating and putting money in that, but I don't understand why we don't have good resources. Even online resources are bad. Like, yeah. I can't point to a single website that even has every video game. Like, Moby Games is the best we have. And I constantly come across video games that aren't in Moby Games. And it's a lot of it now is because I look at Japanese computer games, and kind of my first indication that I found something interesting is like, oh, this isn't in Moby Games. That means it's kind of interesting.
That's such a sad note, but it's true.
Can you imagine if there wasn't a list of Marvel comic books? Like, they just didn't even have the list, let alone like the values and all the characters and things that matter. They didn't have a list of every Marvel comic book. That's where we're at with video games.
Which is insane. by the way.
Also, everyone still uses price charting, which, as collectors, this is excellent news for us because price charting definitely depresses prices when you're interested in variance and condition. But that makes us not serious that we're all using a single value to represent the entire spectrum of The Legend of Zelda or Super Mario 64. That's a bad example. What's something with like a lot of variant nuance to it?
Super Mario 3.
Super Mario Brothers probably has one price on price charting, or maybe that's like a special case where they finally like separated out a few variants.
I think they separated like matte versus sticker, and
yeah, on average, they're only going to have one entry per game per the entire game and entire condition, which is a ridiculous way to have a price guide. The very first Overstreet Comics price guide from like the 1970s that separated out different values for different conditions. I think it had good, fine, and mint, and had 3 different values. And we still don't have that for video games. And price charting is a website's from like 2007. Price charting's been around for almost 20 years, and we still don't even have conditional values. And I realize it's because we can't, because that would require actual human work to like sort through different things and to determine how much the condition affects the price, and not one person considers that valuable work to do. People would pay for that. People would pay for a service or a book that did list out different prices based on condition, but no one thinks that's important. No one thinks that there's a commercial market to sell that service into. And I think the one service that did, gamerstocks.com, got shut down by like one of the auction websites.
Yeah, I don't. Is that what happened to them?
I forgot which. It might have been Heritage Auctions or I think it was Golden Auctions. They said they were like stealing their price data, like their price data was copyright or something, and they got GamerStonks shut down.
Yeah, can't imagine why they did that. All right, why else? Why else is it going to zero? What else? So, what else is the problem with this hobby? Why does this hobby suck so hard, and why aren't we more collectible, Tyler?
Johnny, a big chunk of the game collecting community looks down on collecting as a pursuit. And if you need proof of this, take any sealed game and post it on the game collecting subreddit. And I'm not like the biggest proponent of sealed games, but you know what? If I find a nice condition sealed game, I'm like, hey, all right, cool. This game's sealed. That's in like kind of the best condition it could possibly be in. As a collector, I'm like, oh, that's kind of nice. Look at how nice this thing is. And you post it on the game collecting subreddit, not the video game subreddit, not the retro gaming subreddit, the game collecting subreddit, and you will get 97% hatred for the audacity of owning a sealed game. God forbid you post a graded game. You're just going to get banned at that point.
So, which is a stark contrast. So, like, can you imagine if I went into the Pokemon collecting subreddit and I posted a graded card? You'd think they would be stoked, right? If I had something cool. Like, I think you'll get a bunch of positive reviews if you go into other communities and show them your graded stuff.
This is a non-issue in every other collectible. Like, game collectors are actively against collecting games.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and you have the further fracturing of people believing like, oh, you can't collect video games. You have to just play those. You can't. What? You just putting them on a shelf to die? They get very melodramatic.
And like this has been an attitude for a very long time, and it hasn't died out, if anything, because like honestly, game collecting on Reddit, the game collecting subreddit, probably the biggest game collecting community on the entire internet, because it has hundreds of thousands of people there. You definitely don't have a forum or a Facebook group with as many people as that subreddit. And the very prevailing opinion in that subreddit, the collecting subreddit, is that games are only meant to be played, which is not what collecting is. And it would be like if you just go on the Pokemon, card subreddit, and you just, every time someone posts something and they're showing it off as a collectible, you're like, how come that's not in your deck? And you post that on every single one where they're just like, they have it in a binder or they have it in a case. You're like, why is that not in a deck? But you probably don't even know the meta for that card, and you just poked like shitty comments like that on every single post. It's just not it. And there are people like that in comics, in cards, probably not in coins and stamps, but it is so much more niche to be anti-collecting collectible cards than it is to be collecting video games.
Could you imagine if you told everyone to spend their coins? Jesus Christ. Yeah. God, collectors are the worst. Video game collectors specifically. All right. Why else? Why else are we going to zero? Why else aren't we taken seriously?
I don't know why I put this here, Johnny. People ignore vintage games and PC games. They just outright pretend they don't exist. And the reason I put this here is because if video games as a category are collectible, it doesn't matter what platform they're on because you're not playing them. You can't just... What is the point of collecting a sealed PS2 game that you're never going to play? It's there as a collectible. Okay, why don't you have Doom? Why don't you have Half-Life? Why don't you have Space Quest 1? And your answer is like, oh, well, you have to install those in a floppy drive. Like, what is the response to that? Why don't you care about that? And you're just like, oh, well, PC games aren't real games. Like, I'm trying to think of an analog to trading cards or comic books, but it would be like, only Marvel comic books are collectible. DC comics are just like kind of bullshit. Like no one really reads those.
Yeah, which would be crazy, by the way. I mean, it kind of existed. Remember how people felt that way about Image and Dark Horse?
Image and Dark Horse don't exist. You can't really collect. You can't collect Witchblade 1. What, are you crazy? Some kind of pervert?
Ooh,
no, collect Spider-Man.
What
people
fool.
Will care about that in 500 years.
Yeah, they probably will.
No one's going to care about Witchblade in 500 years.
We agree. we agree on that one. I don't think Witchblade is the thing that's surviving. Hey, but I've got a Fathom #1 that I'd really like to show you.
Oh, man. I got to say, as a teenager in the 90s, my Witchblade and Fathom posters that I pulled out of Wizard magazine were definitely the coolest posters in my room.
Yeah, some real good art. Real good art. Yeah, get that along with your Savage Dragons and go on. Okay.
I wrote as a bullet point, Johnny, if the first Zelda game actually came out in 1982 on the ZX Spectrum, people would pretend it doesn't exist and not collect it because they're quote-unquote console gamers, despite the fact that they also don't play their copy of Legends of Zelda on NES.
I agree with this point. And I think collectors need to mature and take a look. I don't like, here's one of the problems I feel that happens in game collecting. It's very Nintendo centric, right? We agree there? It's
absolutely.
Okay. And I don't think that is inherently bad that it's Nintendo centric, but people pretend like that's the only thing and they can't get past that. I have always rallied a lot of Nintendo is my childhood and I love a lot of Nintendo games. And yes, I still think they're the most collectible, but I'm not here to defend companies, right? Like, I'm just not a fanboy for a company. Like the companies don't give a shit about me. That's not what I collect. Games are the thing, right? If games are the thing, then we need to expand our ideas. And when you first came on this podcast, I would be loath to buy any Atari game or any PC game or even look at them, right? My attitude has shifted.
Absolutely, yes.
My attitude has shifted on that largely because as the idea of collecting them and trying to take this as a serious platform, you have to open your eyes and you have to look at more things that are around. Yes, I largely did this for Halloween games, but you have to, because like you said, I cannot put my head in the sand and pretend the stuff doesn't exist when I can see it sitting out there. And I agree. Doom, do you know how many times I've looked at copies of Doom, Tyler? When I never would have done that 10 years ago. I catch myself, I'm like, I should probably own a fucking copy of Doom. I should probably own the good copy of Doom, which is a crazy idea for me. Just because, I like video games. I like what they mean. And as a thing, if I want stuff that is collectible, beyond just having sets of nonsense, I feel like there are some games that are just hugely important and I should own them. So that is an idea that I think comes from the maturity of the hobby. And I think as people talk about the hobby, they need to talk like that. And again, where we don't have good books, we don't have a lot of good YouTube channels that talk like this. And a lot of the channels are focused on playing. And again, like you said, because if you just have a collecting channel, they won't take you seriously. How many dumb YouTube shorts have I posted just for my stupid Halloween games? And people are like, sure would be cool if you showed footage or did some gameplay. I'm just like, my dude, Trick or Treat on the PC from 1997.
Put some effort in, Johnny. Install it. Get some gameplay footage. We're doing some shorts here. At least put some Subway Surfers in there or something.
Yeah, this was a 45-second video, my guy. I was just telling you this thing exists and why What? Okay.
I would want to see the gameplay, Johnny. I don't make videos because making videos is hard and you got to do stuff.
I agree, but we're just talking about like just telling you a thing exists. Like, oh, well, this video sucks because there's no gameplay. It's like, well, is the gameplay? I'm not telling you this is a good... I've never come into the video and been like, this is the best video game to play. I mean, there's a few that I've recommended.
But it's interesting to see what the game looks like.
I don't disagree, but I'm talking to people. You're bad at defending your own fucking points. So let me help you defend your own point. I am showing you the thing to collect. I'm giving you a direction. I'm showing you this is the thing. If we don't care about the gameplay, I'm just telling you the thing exists and kind of giving you a roadmap. I'm trying to help. Here's a thing that you could collect. If you are into this kind of thing, this is the thing. Go look into it more in this 30-second to 1 minute long video. You don't need a full gameplay footage, especially if the gameplay doesn't really matter and you're never going to play it.
All right, Johnny, this is a tangential point that I didn't actually write down or think about. But speaking of those people on YouTube that are just like looking up your stupid horror game from 1997, I think a lot of people who grow up in, let's say, the Xbox 360 era and beyond would look at a game from the Super Nintendo and call it unplayable. Because it's just that it's the concept of like just game overs in general, that they think that's like bad game design, like for forcing you to learn something, forcing you to get good at something. Like inaccessibility, they think is bad game design. Posing a challenge. I'm being a little facetious, but I'm also not. I think if someone played a game for 45 minutes and got a game over from like Gen Alpha, they would give. I don't think Gen Alpha could sit down and play a Super Nintendo game. They probably wouldn't have the patience for just doing that. But let alone getting a game over and playing it again until they're good enough to beat the whole game.
Hey,
that's just not a thing. Whereas I think it's easier for a casual movie fan to sit down and watch a 90-minute movie from the 50s. I think it's a lot harder to experience all of Chrono Trigger. It's very hard to experience something like Wizardry 1. Not a super hard game, but not a very intuitive game either. You're going to have to read the manual and you're going to have to figure out some obscure old computer bullshit to get through Wizardry 1. So I think video games, even games that we think of as just like obvious timeless classics, Super Metroid, Chrono Trigger, it's less accessible than a lot of other forms of media. Not only because it's difficult, but like in just like, I can't watch this just on a computer. I have to figure out like an emulator. How am I going to control it?
It's not unified.
Things get archaic.
There's no unified platform. There's no like kind of Steam is becoming the unified platform a little bit. So it will get better once everything has been like, oh, here's the thing that this old game came out on this system, but you can just go to Steam, and Steam is where everything lives, or whatever the thing is in the future. But yeah, it's hard when people are like, I don't want to, this is too much effort to do this thing. And like when you get into the idea of like discs, people who collect PC games, and this, like, you're like, yeah, the disc is there. I hope all the data is still on the disc, but there's no promise of that.
It's fine. It's going to live on my shelf.
Yeah, it's like the box is really nice, though, and the discs are in there, and the labels are still on them, so I'm sure we're cool. But there's no guarantee any of the data is still on this thing. And I don't see a lot of people, like, I see people mention that, but I don't see a lot of PC gamers being like, I can't, no. Like, I tested it, so this game is totally trash. I don't get that, but I feel people on about PS1 games like, they turn into small puddles of oozing tears when they think about bit rot.
Guys, it'll be fine. Pirates have backed up everything for a long, long time. They're doing way better than us. Pirates are doing so much better than us as collectors.
It's so much better. People
They're
who
so much
wanna,
more meticulous.
that, like, seriously, if you go to a ROM site and then look at the cataloging of all the different ROMs, they are doing so much better than game collectors. You're just like, oh, there's like 12. We only know that there was a bunch of different variants and chipsets because the people who are emulating these things and putting them on pirate websites documented all the different ROMs they found of it. Thank God for them. Good job, pirates. You have helped. You've helped the hobby somehow.
John, and then my next point, we've brought up Heritage Auctions blew up in 2021. They had 6.7 thousand video games for sale in 2021.
They got a video game category yet?
No, there's no video games category. It's in the comic category. Another reason video games are not serious. And yes, there is a dedicated NFT category and not a dedicated video game category. It's under comic books because they're like, come on, video games.
It's under entertainment. Look, I had to find it for the first time, and I was like, are you kidding? This still isn't fixed?
Nope.
Okay.
So 6,000 in 2021, 12,000 in 2022, 12,000 in 2023, and then back to 6,000 in 2024. And we're on track for about 6,000 or 7,000 in 2025. And this is very short-term data. And all that shows is that there was kind of, it basically shows a bubble of graded games being available and excitement for graded games. We're not quite on a downtrend. It just shows that there was a bubble in 22, 23, and now we're flat again. For comparison, just Golden Age comic books last year was 25,000 lots on Heritage Auctions. Just Golden Age, the rarest, most desirable comic books, was like 5-fold all video games, maybe 4-fold.
What do you think we need to get to the point where people don't care, like for grading and for this kind of stuff, to the point where like just cartridges can be sent in and like people care about graded just cart only stuff?
No, I don't think that'll never be a thing. Come on. No. I think there'll be an endpoint where we eventually get to the point where a lot of people collect graded CIB, which I still don't really like. I mean, that has to be the endpoint. I'll get to that later, in that there aren't enough sealed games to go around. So if people want video game collecting to be a thing, they have to hype up graded CIB.
Yes, and we're seeing it now. People are already doing it. I've long been anticipating this future and have been hoarding paper since.
I know you want to be the insert man. You'll buy all the literal piles of trash at conventions. Like if they bring a garbage bin of their inserts from the back room, you're like, yes, let me mail that home.
Yeah. So I can one day capitalize on the market, because that's a thing I'm known for, right, Tyler?
Yeah. You're just in it for the money. I know.
Yep. Can't wait. Can't wait till everyone's groveling for my manuals.
All right. I do want to get to the fact that there physically aren't enough sealed video games for it to be a big collectible. Johnny, let me get over my last 2 bullet points here before we get to that.
Okay.
Just go on these numbers. More trading cards get graded in a month than video games have been graded ever. Because PSA releases how many trading cards they grade in a month, and it's like millions.
So here, let me talk you through something that I'm trying to buy for my son right now. I'm trying to buy him a graded Mewtwo, and I know people are going to be like, "That's crazy," but yeah, I'm trying to buy him this graded Mewtwo. Because why graded? Because you can buy a 9 for the basic price that you can buy a raw copy. Like 9 is basically considered like what market is for a raw card, which is for a modern Pokemon card. And this is a Pokemon card from 2003. He's got the Charizards, and there is this Mewtwo that is the alternate view of this art, right? And it's from Crown Zenith, this Mewtwo. I look at it every day and I like go to bid on one. Tyler, there is at least like 10 graded ones, maybe 5 like graded copies, like closing every day. Every time I look, there's like 5 or 6 just closing. And it's like every day for a month I've looked at it, like 5 or 6 of just this one specific card that's like between like 80 and $50 or like $300 if it's a 10. The premium on 10s goes up quite a bit. But always, Tyler, it is always just closing. Like there's always an auction that's just going to close around 6 or 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for this card every single day. And this is like it's not the most popular Pokemon card. It's not like the key card from that set or anything. It's just one of the cards.
And to be clear, I think Pokemon is obviously a lot more popular than any other collectible, and it's insane right now. That's what makes the comparison so fun. And to be clear, I think Pokemon's all eventually going to zero too. And when I say that, I don't even mean like in our lifetime. I think it is possible that Pokemon as a franchise matters for the rest of our lives. But in 500 years, Johnny, no one's going to care about Pokemon.
I think people will know about Pokemon in 500 years.
So, so that's another point. Like people say, like, well, why do I care if no one cares about Spider-Man in 500 years? When I'm investing just to make a profit, in the next 20 or 30 years, and like that's totally a fair point. Like I think The Legend of Zelda on NES will be worth more in 25 years than it's worth today. I would almost guarantee it, especially because it's a Nintendo game. I think almost any non-Nintendo game, I have no idea what's going to happen to those in 25 years. But Nintendo, like the one company that's been around for over 100 years and we all kind of agree is synonymous with video games, yes, I think that the top Nintendo stuff in our lifetime will be worth more. But in 500 years, who knows, Johnny?
Who knows, indeed.
Johnny, the most popular video games, the highest pops on the pop reports have like plus or minus 1,000 copies for each company, I think. And you look at stuff like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas because of the GTA Trilogy pack. A lot of them are real copies, and a lot of them are the Trilogy, which is like on eBay. It was on eBay for $10 sealed for forever. And Breath of the Wild on Switch, these games have like a little over 1,000 copies, I think. And I just looked up a popular Pokemon card, the 2020 Sword and Shield Black Star promo Charizard V Champions Path Elite Trainer Box. Basically, one of the popular COVID era Charizards has a population of 46,000. That's not even like, oh, this card is like one of the most iconic cards ever, and it's just had time for people to send that many in. That's from the past 5 years. It has a population of 46,000. That's like more than all NES games in one Charizard.
Which is insane. But it's also a lot easier to grade cards.
It is. I realize that. I realize that. It's a lot easier to grade them. It's also a lot easier to collect them.
Yes.
They're not as much of a pain in the ass. Man, video games are a pain in the ass. Case in point, our houses.
Yeah.
Your room, you listener, look around your room. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for collecting all this. Look at these boxes, mismatched sizes. What are you doing with that Baseball Stars 2 box? It's got that big crease on the side, man. We're really keeping that around. You don't want that Baseball Stars 2 like that. What a hassle collecting video games is.
I mean, all that, and hey, does it have all of its components? You got the baggie in there? Bullshit. Get out of here.
Johnny, I did go through the Sword and Shield stuff and picked out a few more pops. The full art Marnie trainer, who I believe is just a little girl with full art, because Pokemon collectors are kind of like that. 23,000 graded. And the same set also has 10,000 Raikus and Zacians. And I'm bringing this up because to prove that I'm not just like cherry picking a real outlier with Charizard, which I absolutely was, but there are 10,000 Zacians. I don't even know what a Zacian is. And there's 10 times as many of those as Breath of the Wilds.
Zacian is like a dog. Oh, it's the dog with the sword in its mouth.
Okay, that is not a Pokemon. Dog with a sword in its mouth? I've never seen this thing. Oh, is this thing like on the cover of Pokemon Sword, I guess?
Probably.
All right.
I've seen this one before. All
right, Johnny, last point in why isn't video game collecting a serious hobby yet? There is limited credibility of wannabe influencers. And all right, I'm trying to think of who the most influential person in video game collecting is. But we
Metal
don't
Jesus.
have and when I say credibility, I guess I mean clout, because I wouldn't really consider someone like Gary V to be a credible person, or Logan Paul to be a credible person. But we don't even have those. We have a dentist.
And the angry video game nerd.
Not even, he doesn't collect video games.
Pat the
his
NES
entire
punk.
collection is literally a set for YouTube videos that he doesn't want to make.
Yeah. Pat the NES punk and Metal Jesus. That's it.
And so those are influencers. Like Pat the NES punk, sure, is an influencer, but not in like the greater scheme. Like, you want to find vulnerable young men and tell them that the way to happiness is buying the product I'm telling you about. And then everyone will go out and buy Logan Paul's created Pokemon cards or whatever NFTs Gary Vee is selling. And we don't have someone like that. And the closest thing, I would say that, I'm probably wrong here. We probably do have maybe Josh Byerly's a big influencer.
I hope
Greg,
so.
We're talking about people with like thousands of views. There's no one with real things. The rich guy influencer, I think Eric Nairman, maybe had some clout, or he was like trying to set himself up as a guy with clout. And if you look at his Instagram, like today in the past week, it will be like rotated between Wata graded black box NES games and Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs. And if you are posting Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs, you don't have any credibility.
No.
And so the kind of the image that we get, as if like video game collecting is at all unified. The average video game collector sees a graded video game or sees a Wata and they think scam, and they don't even know why. They think that they all they know is that 3 years ago they watched a 2-hour YouTube video by convicted defamer Carl Jobst, so he must have made excellent points because he said them very confidently. And it literally doesn't matter. No matter how much you try to explain, like, well, it's not really a scam. Well, you don't understand. Like, they sold the company. The guys that you don't like Dennis and Kenneth, they're not even like with the company anymore. The guys who founded the company aren't there. So, like, let me point out these things. Like, they don't care. No. Wata equals scam. This isn't a nuanced debate. It's the public perception. And the perception is graded games are scam. And I joke about it all the time because that is a really big image problem that I don't know how they're going to get over.
I think if they should change their case and their name.
I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, I think it's bled over. Like, people don't differentiate between CGC and VGA and Wata. It's all just Wata to them. I mean, it's not, but it's all just graded games and market manipulation and games are only meant to be played.
Yes, 100%.
And the perception is reality. If people say Wata is a scam enough, that is just what people believe. And it's again, I don't want video games to be more expensive or a more quote unquote serious collectible. But if there are so many people that are actively fighting against video games being a quote unquote serious collectible, it is less likely to happen.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because there's very few other hobbies where something is highly collectible and considered, investment grade, where people have just like, where a lot of people have like thousands of them sitting around, or 1,000 of them sitting around. It's usually just not how it goes. I mean, maybe comics, but, like graded super nice stuff, like, you just don't have rooms full of it like this.
What are you talking? Have you not seen a Rudy video? I'm talking about YouTube channel Alpha Investments, a very noted Magic the Gathering investor.
Also Lego and other things,
and Pokemon and Weiss Schwartz.
Yeah, but he's a reseller. That's not his collection.
Oh, that's one of my perfect example of a collectibles influencer who has a lot of credibility and clout. Whether or not you agree with him, a lot of people listen to Rudy. There is no voice like that in video game, not even close to the reach that Rudy has.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I've had people tell us like, oh, we mess up the price of games, and we've done some things. We have not even, we couldn't sniff Rudy's farts from how far below we are the level of influence in our market compared to him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Johnny.
Yep.
We can now come back to the fact there aren't enough sealed video games for the sealed market to grow into like some explosive big thing. Like, I think a lot of people say like, oh, we're in early. How early can you be when there are 100 graded copies of Final Fantasy owned by 30 people? Like, how many people can that market support?
Well, how are we in early also if it's at the end of physical media?
I mean, the end of physical media is the start of physical media being the most important. I mean, they're going to say that they're right, because once physical media ends, there definitely will be a bump. And they're going to be like, here it is. This is the big one.
Of course, but no one, this goes back to video games not being made as collectibles. And we've talked about ways in which we would do this to make people like try to just collect video games, the physical object, not the thing to play. But that's not really how they're made. So there's not just this large market of keeping them sealed. There are with new stuff, but we can't go backwards in time. Those days are dead and gone. We only have what's in front of us, and no one is really still monetizing that as an idea. They're trying to do it a little bit, but there's no company like really pumping it up the way it would need to be pumped to make it a collectible. And it would have to be all new stuff. That's the other thing. And
it would have to be like you're saying like Switch 2 games, like new stuff.
Yeah.
On shelves.
Yes, it would have to be this. And we have the closest we have is limited run games, and they aren't really getting in bed for like sealed stuff, or as much as they try to do to get that FOMO juice flowing, they aren't doing enough, and they could be doing more. And like they should be taking notes from other hobbies to do this, but it's just not there. Like we've talked about, they should have stuff coming out as like pre-graded that they are selling and getting people into this market. They need to sell people into that market, or the graded companies need to be talking to them to get them to sell into this market and get their customers there. Because as you said, there's not enough old stuff, so we got to rely on new stuff. But also, if physical media is dying, how can this possibly sustain itself?
I mean, and I think that people are going to obviously speculate on the new stuff, but when we're talking about investing and like things that will go up in value forever, you're thinking of, the sealed Chrono Triggers, the sealed Super Mario Worlds, things like that. And, I think that kind of top end stuff, I think that will hold its value, because you only need 100 people interested in collecting some of that old stuff for it to have astronomical prices. You can't explode that into the market of 46,000 people not only own that Charizard, have graded that Charizard. There's probably not a single collectible video game that 46,000 game collectors own. There's definitely video games 46,000 people own in their collection, but like a collectible that people have specifically sought out as a collectible, how many video games have that status? Mario 3, the original Halo, like there might be some super common game, but there are not many.
No.
And you think 100 graded Final Fantasies, Johnny, that's a game that every NES collector wants Final Fantasy. Probably every video game collector wants Final Fantasy, because even if you're not an NES collector, if you like PlayStation, you like Final Fantasy 7, I want to get the first one, I want Final Fantasy 1. And so there's like 100 graded copies on like the Wada Pop report, and like a third of them are junk because no one wants a 7.5, no one wants a B+ seal. So let's say we're down to like 65 of them. And of those 65, like 20 people probably own them, because people don't own just like one copy and they're happy. A lot of these people are investing, they're speculating, they're reselling. So it's like 20 dudes who own the entire population of like good ownable Final Fantasies. And they basically, their job now is to convince everyone that, oh, this is a thing that you should be collecting compared to the organic collectability of stupid Charizard Pokemon card that everyone wants it because it's exciting and everyone can have it. I don't know, like the fact that everyone can post their Charizard on Instagram creates a much more exciting community effect compared to, oh, hey guys, I've got a mint graded Secret of Mana and you'll never have one because it's $30,000 and there's 10 of them or something. I don't even think Secret of Mana is like that extremely rare, but you're probably never going to have one. You're only showing it off to the other 12 dudes who have one.
Yeah, you just can't do it. I mean, Pokemon is in a very weird and special place because they're just like, oh, we want Charizard's cool, so we made 4 new Charizard arts. Here you go. Aren't these sweet?
And so this isn't a reason that it's going to zero, because obviously things that are rare maintain their value. I think this is a reason that sealed video game collecting very much stays a niche collectible.
Yeah,
not a low value collectible.
It can't explode. It can't. There's not enough of it to saturate outside of a niche hobby, right? So you need to penetrate beyond just the basic walls of your average collectors and get into the homes of people, in the homes and minds of people who didn't consider video games as a hobby, like collecting them as a hobby. And there's not enough, and there's no thrust in which to do that. And even if there was the thrust, there's not enough product to do that with. So it's kind of two things holding it back.
Because, yeah, and you know what happens when the pops are so low? People are like, oh, the pops are so low, so the price, like, people will just pay anything because they got to have them. One, the alternative is CIB. Like, it's not like you can't have it. You just can't have it sealed. And two, if the pops are so low, like, how much do I love Ninja Gaiden 3, Johnny? I love that game. And so I look at a sealed one, and it's like, oh, there's 12 that have been graded by WADA. And am I like, oh man, so I have to spend $9,000 in that because there's only 12? No, I'm like, all right, well, there's only 12. Like, fuck it. Like, come on, let's like,
let's be serious. Yeah.
And that's what everyone, like, I'm a serious collector, and I'm like, all right, well, if it's that rare, just fuck it. I'm a serious collector, and that's a game I very much love. I probably love that game more than any of the 12 people who own it. But I'm still just like, fuck it, because it's not worth chasing something that's that rare compared to the alternative of just owning CIB.
Not even a little bit.
Plus, WADA's a scam. I mean, come on, we already talked about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, don't get that shit. Come on.
I mean, Carl Jobst.
He said so.
I heard that he wins all his lawsuits. By the way, speaking of lawsuits, I didn't see any YouTube videos about this, but the guys who sued WADA, like technically their lawsuit was that the slow turnaround times made them lose out on the value of their games by the time they got back to it. But the game collecting community latched onto it as, yeah, we're suing WADA because they're a scam. That lawsuit got dismissed like a few months ago, by the way.
Oh,
and
okay.
Like no one reported on that because we only report when WADA bad.
Yeah. No, we talked about how that would be the end result.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh man, we didn't do the thing that we wanted to do. Fuck them then. Ridiculous.
So speaking of how people get to the point where they're buying sealed games, Johnny, the pipeline of going from cracking packs of sports cards as a kid to buying Mickey Mantle, like there's a whole, like there's an intentionally designed pipeline of multiple levels of products to kind of bring you into the hobby to start spending more money. And so it starts out, you're at the store, you're buying the $4 packs, you're cracking them, you get garbage, but you're just happy. Oh, I got my favorite player. And then, maybe you start, and then they've got like more expensive products, like, oh, you start buying the Prism packs, which are kind of like the mainstream collectible packs. And then they've got the, it's like National Treasures, which, can be thousands of dollars for a single pack of cards type deals. And once you start buying that stuff, you get into the grading, and then you start having an eye for quality, and you're not putting your things in your Ultra Pro sleeves anymore. You start putting them in top loaders and sending them off to be graded. And, you're at some point you're chasing cards that could be worth thousands of dollars in these more expensive packs, and then at the end of it you're like, oh, I want Mickey Mantle, I want Babe Ruth, I want all the top stuff in the hobby. And with video game collecting, because there isn't that like progressive element, I don't know, I think people collect carts and CIB. It's like one or the other. And for the most part, people do not have an eye for quality like they do in other collectible hobbies where condition matters a lot. And we brought this up with the price charting thing. A lot of video game collectors tangentially care about condition. I think even me to an extent, I don't need all my games in absolute 10 out of 10 condition. But I think the easiest way to see this is that a mint condition game, it is pretty rare for it to sell for even double the price charting price. And it'll happen, with your Super Mario Brothers, your Legend of Zeldas. But when you've got a Konami track and field, absolute gem mint condition, still has the shrink wrap on it, if it's sold for 3 times the price charting price, I would think that's pretty remarkable. Because video games don't have that kind of conditional value to them. And most people don't really care about it for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird market. It's also hard to know exactly what CIB is. That's another point that we talked about.
Yeah.
So it's hard to trust, like, oh yeah, we've got the best CIBs when you're like, do you? Are we sure? I don't even know if that's CIB. Do I trust you? I have to think about it. It's a weird place to be in a hobby.
We don't care, Johnny. We're kids. We're kids just collecting images we recognize. And the comparison I brought up, I don't know, in this bullet point. And, this actually wasn't true at Milwaukee. I wrote that you go to game conventions and the majority of boxed games you'll see will just be like sitting in a bin with no box protectors or anything on them. Some sellers put stickers directly on the boxes, which is crazy. And this was the first year that I think sellers were pretty good about having all their box stuff in box protectors. A lot of stuff still not in box protectors, but like a lot of the good stuff was in box protectors. But imagine going to a comic convention and they just have long boxes of Silver Age comic books, just like in boxes, no bags, no boards, just there. That's how a lot of video game conventions are, especially with like the not top stuff. People are just like, yeah, this is all junk. And it's like every Super Nintendo game, and they have like the one display case, and it's like, okay, here's the Super Mario World, here's the Hagane, here's the Metal Fighters, or Metal Warriors, and a lot of it's just junk.
Yeah, you just made me feel sick to my stomach a little bit when you said that, and I don't appreciate it.
With what, the comic books in just a box with no boards?
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, the curl that they get, that's actually a natural. It's just like how you could press a comic. You could just curl a comic, and that's natural. It's good for the condition. It actually shows authenticity.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, I don't like any of the things you just said to me. Just have you know that.
All right, Johnny.
I'm ready.
What other points do you have to bring up here?
I don't have points. I keep making my points in response to yours. I want to know why this is not a real hobby. I mean, a real hobby, but not going to sustain. It's not
a real hobby. Guys, this is all fake, by the way. Also, all your video games already have no value. I know you thought you just bought Earthbound for $2,000 and you're like, yes, finally. And here I am. Sorry, it's actually worth nothing.
Hey, but cool collection of controllers you just bought.
Oh, okay. Those are actually worth nothing. What is with people in our Discord collecting controllers? You guys need to cut it out.
People love controllers.
Do you like N64 controllers? You like those people who go for like the sealed Fantastic controllers?
No.
Get that rare watermelon? Yeah, well, you know what? That's cooler than collecting stupid Star Wars and The Last of Us controllers. Is getting those fun, and that's dumb. And those people are cooler than you.
I like my Star Wars controllers, thank you.
Ugh.
Thank you very much, Tyler. And I also like my Last of Us controller.
You know, the new season of Andor, it's not something you could be like scrolling Twitter while you're watching it. You know, like The Mandalorian or Obi-Wan. It's something that like maybe you should pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. You haven't even watched it yet. Don't act like you know anything.
I haven't. What am I? I'm watching The Last of Us.
Okay.
That's
I'm going to
also
go out on a limb and say Andor is going to be better than the second season
I
of Last
bet
of Us.
Andor is better than The Last of Us season 2. Yes.
And I've only seen the first 3 episodes of The Last of Us season 2, and I haven't hated it, but I know people are getting real riled up.
I mean, I don't want to go on too big of a tangent. There's a lot of backlash against I forgot the actress's name, the Ellie actress, and like it's for me, it's hard to disagree. I also do not like her, and it's not as good as season 1. No,
Okay.
I'm pretty mad on it.
Okay.
All right, Johnny, let's wrap this up. I also put popularity doesn't guarantee mass collectability. That's pretty obvious. So yes, Pokemon is huge and collecting Pokemon stuff is huge. But Star Wars is huge, and you could go get a first print Star Wars VHS right now on eBay for like $20 for probably, yeah, maybe all 3 would cost you $50.
Yeah, but how
like,
much that's you're cherry picking examples. How much is Star Wars #1 comic?
You see, no, comic people are crazy.
Oh.
But there's also there's multiple Star Wars trading card games that obviously don't have the same appeal as Pokemon. All right, I could give you plenty of examples of things that are huge but not collectible. Rubik's Cubes, Tamagotchi, Monopoly. Johnny, Monopoly should be the grail of board games. Like a first print Monopoly is genuinely rare. It comes in like some relatively plain packaging because it's from like the 20s or the 30s. And it's like only a few $1,000s. I don't remember exactly what I saw the last one sell for, but it wasn't like 50 grand. It wasn't like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you would think like, this is it. This has to be the grail. This is the Action Comics one of board games. And I mean, I'm sure it's not the board games, let's go find the first chessboard. Let's go find, the Royal Game of or something. But it should be something. And it's like, yeah. And then obviously all the other like regular Monopolies you can get for like a few $100. Like Monopolies, it ain't shit compared to everyone's played Monopoly. Monopoly ain't shit.
Okay.
What else is big? What are some? I don't care. Right, you get the point.
I get the point.
And I think we've already gone over other mass-produced media collecting markets are already niche. And that goes into movies and music. And I'm just saying there is a collecting community for those, especially popular stuff that people want to own. But the supply far exceeds the demand for the vast majority of items in those markets. And I know video games are special to us. And we like the rare stuff because we're collectors who think about this stuff all day. But for the vast majority of these things that matter, they were mass produced, meaning there are a lot of them.
This is true.
Which isn't great for being a collectible, unless you're a Pokemon card, which for some reason makes it better. I don't understand the Pokemon market.
It's crazy. Because people just love collecting it. It's so weird. It's such a different world.
I mean, there must be something innately human about holding a little monster in your hand or something. It must be like some kind of like they've linked into some like Stone Age agricultural part of our brain that's like, oh, not only am I collecting, but this is livestock or like something. Oh, I'm caring for these cute little animals. Like there's more to Pokemon than just they found a cool thing that people want to collect. They're manipulating us somehow with those.
They must be. I'm trying to understand because it hooks children. It hooked JD so easily, and I was just like, oh, interesting. And every kid he knows, they were just like, yeah, well, this is what we do. We collect Pokemon cards. They're 6-year-olds, Tyler. They're 6, like between 6 and 8, and they're all like, yeah, we collect Pokemon. I'm like, how do you guys even know about Pokemon? Well, who taught you? I just found out. I didn't. It's not like I took JD out to teach him about Pokemon. It just happened.
Johnny, there's some good Pokemon collecting resources. Obviously,
there sure.
I think people are probably going to react to my things and say like, "Oh, Tyler, you're an idiot. You're just pessimistic about everything in games." And I don't think that everything is literally going to zero anytime soon. But my main thing that I want before you tell me that video games are the future is one good book that actually goes over. I want the most basic thing. Give me a book of licensed US NES games of the period, and I need there to be a picture of every game, contents, and details about those games as a collectible, not the fucking Pat the NES Punk book.
I was just going to tell you.
Which is a good book, actually.
No, it isn't. Get out of here.
It is a good book.
No.
Yes.
No.
It has genuine opinions. It doesn't have, like, some of the...
Genuine?
What?
I am taking exception with the word genuine, but go on.
It's like a couple guys who wrote their opinions on games they have actually played. Because, like, Pat the NES Punk doesn't care about N64, and he's farting out that book for money. And even the SNES book, he had a lot of guest authors on. But since he actually cares about NES, he wrote half the reviews in his NES book. And I know that these are like genuine opinions coming from an actual expert, and it actually goes over a little bit of the variant nuance, a little bit of the weird stuff. It is a good book, but it is not like a collecting catalog, like a serious stamp catalog. And man, I'm telling you, go get any stamp catalog. Go get a Scott catalog or go get a Mickle catalog and just read like the first 100 pages. Like before it really gets into it, just like, oh my God, the information in a stamp catalog is so fucking weird and specific and clearly written by like absolute psychopaths who do nothing but think about the printing process of stamps. And we have people with that knowledge. Shout out to Josh Byerly, who knows more about packaging video games than any of us know in this hobby. But we need like sketches of what to look for and the different types of seals and how to spot reseal, like all the stuff that we kind of collectively know as a community, but is not written down in a biblical tome like a real collecting category has. And oh my God, I could also show you some coin books that are pretty ridiculous too, Johnny. The only thing that's ever come close to that is the Sierra Collector's Quest books, which were written by a Sierra psychopath and genuinely has like an insane amount of collectible information in them. And until I see that, it is like, this is a life passion of mine, is collecting video games, and I can't consider it a quote unquote serious hobby until I see it being taken seriously on the level of every single other hobby there is. And that's why it's all going to zero.
I believe you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. And we're all going to sell off our stuff to Tyler. This has all been a ploy so Tyler can buy up all the video games for himself.
Yeah. Hit Tyler up and he will give you an offer that is above 0, but not much higher than 2. So he's got you covered. Don't worry about it.
That's me. Johnny, you got anything else?
Nope. I have a question for you.
What's your question?
What's the next question in our Discord?
Hey!
As we move on to collector's questions.
Final Fight CD asks, what's your this is such a you question. What's your favorite St. Patrick's Day video game?
What is my favorite St. Patrick's Day video game? I would have to consider that one a little bit. I'm going to need a minute. Do you have one off the top of your head?
The Bard's Tale takes place in Ireland.
Oh, all right. I don't know. There's got to be an obvious one about luck, right? There's got to be something about being lucky.
Luck Be a Landlord? I think that has a Switch release now. That actually probably would be good. Does that have a 4-leaf clover on the cover somewhere?
I don't know. Now I'm trying to think about games with clovers or leprechauns.
Ooh, Leprechaun. There's probably a Leprechaun video. Oh, the arcade game Leprechaun. Oh, this is perfect.
Oh.
The arcade game Leprechaun is adorable. It's like a third the size of a regular arcade cabinet. It's meant for like little kids. It's like a stupid top-down kind of action game where you run around. I think you like play basically hide and seek with a leprechaun. I played it for about 45 minutes on one quarter, and I literally walked away from it because it was too easy. Leprechaun, the arcade game, the perfect St. Patrick's Day video game.
I think we're going to have to take it because I have so many other games, but man, I don't know if I've ever considered St. Patrick's Day. Either that or a game about bars. Maybe Tapper.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's based on a hurtful stereotype. But that's what St. Patrick's Day is about. So
Yeah,
I like
I
it.
mean-
Tapper, better than Leprechaun because no one knows what Leprechaun is. I like it. Tapper.
Okay.
He asks, do you guys record your episodes through a voice or video call? It's a voice call. My guy, I am not wearing pants. It is 4 a.m. I don't want anyone to see me at 4 a.m, let alone when I'm not wearing pants.
I wish Tyler would show his beautiful face.
What is we posted a thing, we asked to rate game deals. Was that going to be part of our episodes from now on, Johnny?
No, we were going to do an episode where we just like went through people's deals and like said whether they got a good deal. We were going to do a whole episode on that, and I don't know what happened.
All right. Well, that's in the Ask the podcast for later.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go for Joe's because it is kind of tangentially related to our topic. Seeing as we're now legally graded game shills paid for and sponsored by Get the Greg, Heritage, Dennis Kahn, WADA, and the American Dental Association. Yes, this is the perfect question on the episode about the bearish case for video games as a collectible. Would you consider having a perfect 10 graded Mario movie Blu-ray to be a top tier item?
No.
Please answer this question on the next podcast and keep it relevant to your current status as high-ranking members of the video game Illuminati propaganda arm. He is asking this because I think we've both recently been on the Greg video game podcast.
Yeah. Nope.
There's a few boom periods in video games as a collectible, but very obviously COVID has kind of been a boom point for everything. And really with video games, you could point to 2018 as when WADA opened their doors, and then kind of immediately after that, not immediately, but then COVID, and then 2021. So we got this period from 2018 through 2021 where video games just enormously spiked, whether naturally or not. It was not natural, but there was this huge spike. And now even the average person has in their minds, oh, I should be keeping video games sealed. I have seen regular guy video game collectors, like Reddit type people. I'm sorry to diminish normal people like that, but they will go through their video game collection and they will be like, oh, check out my sealed 7 controller copies of Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. I have these as just an investment for later because these will never go down in value. Like, they'll just have like stupid shit like that they save. So anything that comes out basically after the 2020s sealed, there's so many people that are going to be saving it or specifically hunting cases for tens of it that I will never be interested in any of that stuff personally. Let alone as a top tier item. What are you talking about? Also, it's a movie. Shut up, Joe. Johnny, your opinion?
Well, I agree. Also, Tyler being this harsh on it, and he loves this movie. So,
no, he's talking about the new one.
Oh, the new one,
the animated one.
Oh, absolutely not. Trash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're talking if you talk about like the Super Mario Brothers movie VHS, and you've got like an IGS 10 in the investment grading service for VHS. I don't think it's a top tier item, but sure, I'm into it because I love that movie. And is that the first Nintendo movie? No, it's not, because they had animated movies in Japan. But there is a historical value to the Super Mario Brothers movie that I don't think the newer one technically has. I think it might have. It's not, 'cause, like, just it coming out in an era where everything is already kept as a collectible. No one throws anything out. People intentionally keep things sealed. It's not going to have any value in that sense. It might be kicking off a new era of Nintendo movie making that the original Super Mario Brothers movie did not, but this is not the actual crux of the question. He's asking if we should collect mint condition Blu-rays, which we should not.
Well, and which version are we getting? Are we getting the Target exclusive Blu-ray with the stickers in it? Or are we getting like the Walmart exclusive, like the Best Buy Steelbook, which has an alternate? Like, what are we doing?
Hey, when there's too many SKUs, I just don't want any of them. I just get tired, man.
That's when Tyler says, "Screw you! I'm not doing this."
On. I just want the best one, and if there's no like actual best one, like, man, I need you to tell me which one's the best. And like this also comes down to if there's just a regular version and a collector's edition, but the collector's edition is really inconvenient to own. It's like, oh, but that one's not the best, but like I just want the game. But then if I don't have the game, I don't have the collector's edition, which is obviously more collectible, right? And then I just end up buying neither of them. Just give me one good thing to collect, please.
Man, I can't wait until we get the next Mario game packaged with a Blu-ray copy of Mario.
That would be pretty cool because those are rare bundles, having the game and movie bundle. I would probably buy that.
Yeah.
You would definitely buy that.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Any other questions for us?
No,
Tyler?
that's it. What do we do after this? What are we buying? What are we playing?
No, we talk about the best thing we saw in the Discord.
It's been a couple weeks. Oh my God. I'm scrolling through.
There was no
Clearvis posted 10 PlayStation controllers. Still waiting on the new Death Stranding DualSense. Stop collecting controllers. I'm sorry about that. Meanwhile, this guy Johnny posts like this super nice, complete mohawk and headphone jack. Man, Johnny, you're doing a good job.
It has the phone card, Tyler.
I didn't even see that.
Look.
Oh, look, it's right there. Look at you. Look at how good you are. You don't count. You're hosting the show. By the way, thing that you bought, really nice complete mohawk and headphone jack.
Yeah,
with the phone card.
If you guys want to know what I'm buying, what I'm playing, I bought mohawk with a phone card. Pretty cool though.
The phone card is the box art from the game, but they made the logo smaller so you could see more of the art. So it actually looks better than the box art of the game. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in this game, but there's like an octopus. With a brain. I don't know what's up with this game, but there's a phone card here, and I have wanted this for a long time. And Josh Byerly, thank you, Josh, sent me a random picture of some stuff he bought, and I saw it. He's like telling me about this great deal, and there's all this good stuff in there. I'm like there's like a really nice Mega Man, and stuff is still in cellophane, like NES games in cellophane. Really good stuff, Tyler. And I'm like, tell me about that mohawk and headphone. You got a phone card in there? Send it to how much? Buy now. Immediately cut him off in the middle of the story. Just became as dumbly focused as an individual can become, and just totally steamrolled our conversation and barreled down on this one thing. Cool. It was a really proud moment of mine, but I did buy it, and I'm very happy it came here. So thank you, Josh.
Johnny, to my taste, that is by far the best thing that's been posted recently on Discord.
I don't disagree, but I am going to go ahead and say the stuff. Look, if you like controllers, Clearvis posted a nice picture of the PlayStation controllers. They're pretty cool. If you're into them, it's nice. They all come in uniform boxes. It'll cover a lot of different properties, and some of them are kind of expensive. So, if you're into it, that was a cool thing that Clearvis posted. Thanks for showing us your controllers.
What's Peaceful up to? Peaceful's buying Canadian variants of GameCube games, and he's getting like kind of cool ones.
So he's got to Meet the Robinsons in here, and this is a variant I showed off not too long ago. This one comes with the slipcover. So what Disney did here, and this is very specific to this era, they took these slipcovers when it became like, oh, we had to release it in Canada as well. Rather than putting a wrap around it or something or redistributing it with French text on it, they just put a slipcover over it that had the French text. So there's a couple games where they did this. And Meet the Robinson was one that people didn't really know about for a long time.
Yeah, and this is cool. It comes with 2 manuals, one French and one English. Yep. And
100% a Canadian variant.
Nick, the VGDB, immediately after he posted it, obviously did not know about it. And Nick is I would say, a very prominent worldwide collector, and even he didn't know about this variant. Yeah. So
it's I think I can't remember if Bird Dog Gaming first told me about this or where I saw this, but yeah, not many are around, but you can find them especially if you search Canadian auctions.
All right, Johnny, what are you buying? What are you playing?
What am I buying? What am I playing? What about you? What are you buying? I just talked about something.
Oh, you did. No, I haven't been buying anything, Johnny. I think the world might be ending, and I'm saving for my trip for Japan that got postponed a year. So,
oh well, now you have plenty of time to go buy stuff again, right?
I mean, I guess I do, but I just got like save searches and nothing's getting hits. So like I don't know
Nothing?
what to do about it. I am trying to take my own advice and not just buy stuff, but for the sake of buying stuff.
Tyler, come on. Come on, man. You gotta buy something.
Did I say I'm playing Dinkum? I don't know if
didn't-
I said I'm
you
playing
did
Dinkum.
not tell us about Dinkum. Tell me about this game you're playing.
Do you want to play Dinkum? It is basically Animal Crossing with generic survival crafting mechanics. So think of like Animal Crossing and Minecraft put together, but made by one dude. So the scale isn't super huge like those games, but it is very polished. And also it has an Australian theme. It's not a generic Animal Crossing. You're on an island off the coast of Australia. So there's like kangaroos and dingoes and stuff like that. And if you like cozy games, that there's one. It's a lot like all these other games, but I don't know. I play these games with my wife a lot. And I'm on a RuneScape kick, so just don't do that.
Okay, I'm not going to do that.
Thank you. But if you want to play, my in-game name is Default Gen. If you want to hit me up, I'm playing my Iron Man right now.
All right, Tyler, what did I buy? I bought a
Mohawk
game.
and headphone jack.
Yeah, besides that, I bought Cult of the Lamb on the PS5, so I got that. I bought The Amazing Spider-Man 2 on the Xbox One. It's a movie ticket.
Why?
So this game is a little bit expensive, actually, but it's the Walmart movie concession variant.
Oh, okay.
That's why. So if you look at this game, you would think it's like a $10 game, but it's like a $50 to $60 game. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's driving the price of this game. It's not the concession thing because it doesn't matter if it's the Walmart variant or not. I wanted the Walmart variant because it had the concession cash. So I went out and got one of these for myself.
I think we brought this up. I think Spider-Man games in general are just like a series that really holds its value well.
Yeah, it's like it might be remembered in 500 years.
Just delete this. We're not posting this episode. Our whole everything's been disproven here.
Yeah. So the other thing besides that Mohawk and headphone jack, I bought some other stuff from Josh Byerly. He's been doing some Whatnot videos, Whatnot streams, I should say. So if you're into that, go check them out because he starts everything at $1 and he just lets it go. Whatever it sells for, it sells for. It's pretty cool. I got a Rygar hang tab from him because my Rygar was not a hang tab. And I was like, ooh, I do want a Rygar hang tab. So it's not like beautiful or anything, but it's like pretty good. So I was good enough for me anyways. Happy to get that hang tab for Rygar. Cool game. You into that?
I mean, any hang tab is cool. Sure, I'm into it.
Yeah. So I got that, and then I got a German, a PAL copy of a Jungle Book for the NES, just because it has alternate art, and I thought it was fun. Definitely didn't need it, but I bought it. And he sent me some stuff he had been holding for me that he just got for me. You're going to love this stuff. You're going to love it so much. Tyler, it's remember like Agatha Christie, the one I sent you with the book. He got me one of those. He got me a clown game though. I really want to tell you about this clown game. It's called Stray Souls Dollhouse Story. You ever heard of it?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's part of the Mystery Masters series, and you may not be aware of this, but this is definitely one of the seek and find games that are ubiquitous on PC. This is games for Windows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Games for Windows, the prestigious brand.
Yeah. And then another one of his hidden object games he sent me was Mystery Legends Sleepy Hollow, which is cool because it's got the Headless Horseman on it. And
it's not cool. No, it's not. You can't just...
I can say whatever I want. It's small box PC. You're going to love it. Because there's not a lot of Sleepy Hollow games. And it's got the Headless Horseman throwing his pumpkin head. Pretty cool. So yeah, look forward to my path to oblivion as I endlessly collect every hidden object game that is vaguely involving the supernatural or horror, there's about 500,000 of them. So it's a race to the bottom for me. And your resident garbage man will be picking up many more of these. I hope I don't, actually. But hey, back in 2008, this was this got a customer favorite award from Big Fish Games. So that's got to count for something.
Oh, hey, Big Fish Games? No, that's not the company that distributed Braid. They're just another budget PC game company, right?
Yeah.
But you know what, Johnny? Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow from 1820 gonna be remembered in 500 years, unlike Spider-Man.
We'll see about that. We will see. Time will tell. Anyways, that's what I got, and I'm sorry. The only thing I played was some Diablo. Not very interesting. I know.
All right, I hate your other games. Let's go back to Rygar. Rygar is kind of rad, and I feel like I didn't give you enough credit because I do like Rygar.
Yeah, Rygar. Rygar on the NES, man. Super cool game. Way better than Arcade Rygar. Arcade Rygar kind of sucks.
I don't know anything about Arcade Rygar.
It is a totally different game. Completely different game. And
it's probably an action game. It's just a side-scrolling action game.
Yeah. And and all of a sudden, Nintendo just took Rygar and did something made this kind of unique game on the system. There's not a lot of games like Rygar. They're these changes in perspective. Weird game. Rygar is a weird game with a weird weapon and a weird environment and theme. Cool. I love it. Rygar does not get enough
I wouldn't say
credit.
There's not a lot of games like Rygar, because it's basically an open world adventure game where you go around and you get powered up and you go to all the different areas of the world.
But it's not the way it plays and the type of weapon you have and just what it does is not typical. It's I don't think a lot of NES games are kind of just different from each other because people were just kind of learning what to do, Yeah, there was these were all platformers and stuff, but this was kind of a unique game. There's not a lot going on. And Rygar is a franchise they've tried to make work forever, and it doesn't seem to ever succeed.
Yeah, because it came back on PS2, right?
Yeah. I think it's come back
such a weird thing to bring back. I understand people remember Rygar, but realistically, who remembers Rygar? Come on.
Man, just me. I have some really fond and weird memories of Rygar.
So I did mention DuckTales 2 technically on the last episode, and Sentimental went and played it. If you are someone interested in playing more NES games and you need recommendations outside people telling you, oh, play Contra, oh, play Ninja Gaiden. Rygar is great for two reasons. One, the bosses in that game are kind of jokes, super easy, and a lot of the times the places you get stuck in NES games are impossible, stupid bosses. And two, read the manual for Rygar, because it's an open world adventure, and it's one of those games where kind of the manual tells you exactly what to do. So,
also,
good starter game, I think.
One of the best things about the Rygar manual, you've seen this, right? What it says? Oh, I have to get the exact wording. The Rygar manual, when it talks about the monsters.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember what you're talking about. We've actually had a conversation about this.
It's a meme. Oh God, what is? Okay, yeah. Animalized men wriggling eerily.
Yes.
Animalized men wriggling eerily, and the monsters.
That is the translation of the enemies section of the manual.
And then it's little hand drawings of the enemies, which is super weird. It's just man, what an amazing manual it is. Yeah, go look at it.
Johnny, that's it.
That's it. That's the show.
Go play Rygar. That's all your video games are going to be worthless. Don't pass them down to your kids. But also, we think that the world is going to end inside of 500 years. And you know what? Maybe not the complete end of humanity. We are a very resilient race. But maybe a time enough it lasts scenario where there's just a few pockets of people holding out.
All right. Well, stay tuned for your next dystopian future conversation on Collector's Quest. You can get into all that by joining our Discord, which can be done only by being a member of our Patreon, which you can get to at patreon.com/Collector's Quest. It's $4. You get our After Dark episodes. We just released one, I think, last week. So that's, if you guys haven't heard that and you're members, go look for that. Anyways, Thank you so much for the support. We appreciate you all. And that's it for this episode. Hope you guys had a nice Memorial Day holiday. Bye.